football Cavaliers and a chance for new memories. You'll know in 4 seconds who wins it. Touchdown! No! No! They say he didn't make it. Virginia's upset Florida State. That Seminole shocker highlights the resume of George Welsh's consistent program. Last season it was All-American Thomas Jones on the ground. Now it's Dan Ellis through the air. BYU is always armed. Through the years, prolific passers have rewritten the record books. But last week, Cougar quarterbacks took their lumps against Florida State. Today, take 2 of their coach's victory tour. Today, Virginia football flies into a new era with the first game in the renovated and expanded Scott Stadium. The home of Wahoo football is bigger and better with 15,000 additional seats. It even has a bigger name. The Carl Smith Center, home of David A. Harrison, the third field at Scott Stadium, where today Virginia opens its 2000 season against BYU. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Sean McDonough along with Ed Cunningham, and it's great to have you with us for this non-conference battle between 2 programs that just keep on winning. BYU hasn't had a losing season since 1973. Virginia has now had 13 consecutive years of 7 wins or more. Only 3 other schools in the country can make that claim. And Ed, they also have some similar questions. In the case of BYU, holes to fill at quarterback. Kevin Federick has departed. They're looking for a couple of possible solutions.
Yeah, last week against Florida State, they went with 2 guys, Brett Ingeman and Charlie Peterson. Ingeman got the first and the third quarters and looked the best of the 2. However, he took a big hit on his left knee. His plant leg is heavily taped, broke the brace. The hit was so hard. Settled down in that third quarter, though, has a big, strong arm, accurate, 121 yards in the third quarter against a very good Florida State defense.
It was a 29-3 loss in that game for BYU. Of course, historically, they've done it through the air on offense. Here at Virginia, under George Welsh, it's been the ground game that has paced the attack. Last year, they had the great All-American Thomas Jones, now in the NFL as a first-round pick, so they're looking to 3 possible solutions to take his place.
This school is used to having big-name backs, and they're going to have 3 in the backfield. I think eventually they will settle on 1. Antoine Womack, who was suspended in 99, was second-team All-ACC in 98. Everybody expected him to be the starter. However, Arlen Harris, who has good bloodlines, his brother Aaron was a fullback at Penn State, will get the nod today. Only 112 yards last year as the backup to Thomas Jones. He missed the last 4 ball games with injuries. He's healthy. He'll go as a starter.
More than 60,000 fans expected, the largest college football crowd ever in this state, to watch BYU and Virginia next.
All right, who can solve this?
Long anticipated day in this newly expanded and renovated stadium. Down on the field, here's Leslie Goodell with Virginia coach George Welsh.
Sean, thanks. Coach, you faced BYU twice before. You beat them both times. What's the key to getting out and winning a 3rd straight?
Well, we got to play Virginia football. We got to keep their passing game under control. Otherwise, it might be a long afternoon.
Good luck, Coach. I also spoke with Lavelle Edwards before the game. He said they need to get out to a quicker start than they did last week, and they also need to give some rest to their inexperienced quarterbacks, take the pressure off them by allowing them to run the ball more at the start of the game.
BYU won the toss and deferred, so Virginia will receive the opening kickoff from Owen Potchman.
Virginia coming out on offense first. Dan Ellis was 8th in the country last year in passing efficiency, their starting quarterback, but let's not expect an aerial attack from Virginia. George Welsh will always line up in the eye and try to pound it at you.
Potchman, one of the nation's best kickers, drives it deep into the end zone, and no chance for Arlen Harris to run it out. So Virginia begins its first possession of the season on offense at its own 20. Time for the Chili's starting lineup. Virginia led by the quarterback Dan Ellis. It's a veteran and very solid offensive line in front of him, with Jermise Jones returning to left tackle after a season loss to injury. Woodson, Keith, Broudson, and Barnes, the rest of the veteran group. Very tall wide receivers. That's a concern for the BYU secondary, with Coffey and McMullen, and Baber, an excellent receiver at tight end. Dan Ellis, senior quarterback, hands off to Arlen Harris on first down. He powered across the 20 out to the 22, where he was tackled by Justin Enna. Ellis, a returning starter at quarterback with an all-new backfield behind him. Patrick Washington takes over for an excellent fullback, Anthony Southern, and of course Harris trying to fill the shoes with help of the great Thomas Jones.
And Dan Ellis really quietly had himself a great year last year. Really came into his own towards the end of the season as a master. He's a master in this offense. George Welsh said, of all the quarterbacks I've ever coached, he is the best at knowing what we're trying to get done.
2nd and 8. Out of the shotgun. Ellis throws to the near side. Incomplete. He was looking for Kevin Coffey. Josh Lowe, a linebacker, had coverage in the flat. And now the BYU defensive unit, brought to you by Chili's. Ryan Denny, Hans Olsen, Chris Hope, and Satema Mali Jr. They did a good job against that Florida State offensive line. Very physical bunch. Holtry playing with an injured knee at linebacker. The question mark of the defense, the secondary, particularly the corners, Dustin Staley and Danny Phillips. 3rd down and 8. Tyree Foreman, the lone back. And again out of the gun, Ellis dumps it off. Billy McMullen, a 1st down and much more. The sophomore all the way out to midfield before he was tackled by Justin Enna and Tyson Smith. A gain of 27 and a 1st down for Virginia.
And you mentioned the size of these wide receivers. This play, however, that has nothing to do with size. You're going to see McMullen come across the formation. This is just stolen from the West Coast offense that we've all seen in the late 80s, the early 90s. You bring the outside receiver behind those linebackers, and it's very difficult. That's the one thing that Virginia wants to test on BYU. The big question mark when you show the lineups is the cornerbacks. It's just a tough to chase a guy all the way across that formation.
2 tight ends into the game now for UVA, and it's Harris taking the handoff and 1st down across the 50 and down at the 45 of BYU, tackled by Isaac Kelly after a gain of 7.
And Chris Hope, the defensive tackle for BYU, was standing right in his path, and Arlen Harris put a little shake on him, and Mr. Hope grabbed for air as 23 blitzed right by him.
Hoke, a senior from Santa Ana, California. Looking forward to this matchup. It's a rematch of a game last year in Provo won by Virginia 45-40 in a shootout. Chris Hoke said their offensive line takes great pride in its performances, and our D-line has a lot of pride as well. A catch made, a juggling catch by James Johnson. And that has to feel good for James. He missed all of last year due to injury. Just his 4th career catch. He had 3 as a true freshman 2 years ago. A gain of 8 and a 1st down for the Cavs.
You know, Sean, we've sitting here talking about Virginia being a power football team. They've handed it off a couple times to Arlen Harris, but that time emptied the backfield with the fullback, spread everybody out, and James Johnson, a little used wide receiver last year, comes in. Nice little curl route, and it looks like a run and gun football here for the Cavaliers.
Moving along the line, and the first flag. It's a Mountain West officiating crew. That's the conference of BYU. Last year there were ACC officials out for the game in Provo between these two teams.
Defense, offside, 5-yard penalty, remains 1st down.
And on that subject, the BYU coaches were still talking about what they thought was a phantom holding penalty against their team late in the game when they were trying to drive down the field and score what might have been the winning touchdown.
And Luke Staley, their big-time running back who won't be playing today, hurt his knee against FSU, took the ball down to the 1-yard line. The holding call brought it back, and then, of course, Virginia intercepted the ball in 4th and goal with a minute and a half left to win it.
Arlen Harris down to the 30-yard line. About 2 yards short of a 1st down, tackled by Isaac Kelly. Let's find out how Penn State is faring. Here's John Saunders.
Well, Sean, welcome to Times Square Stadium and welcome to ABC as well. And things did not fare very well for the Nittany Lions coming off the loss to USC. Facing Toledo, this is a game you're supposed to get well on. It didn't happen. Tavares Bolden, 13 yards to Lyle Green, and the upset is complete.
Gary Pinkel, the head coach of Toledo, former offensive coordinator for me at the University of Washington.
I wonder how long it took to get the first Husky plug of the season. Harris fighting for the 1st down. It's going to be very close near the 27-yard line. He got popped by Jared Lee, who was their leading tackler last year from the safety spot with 96 tackles for the Cougars, one of the best defensive backs in Mountain West.
And that's where they're strong in BYU, is in the safeties. They're really struggling in their corners against Florida State. 3rd and short. They got the big guys up front. You know, UVA trying to replace 2 All-Americans on their offensive line. John St. Clair, the center, one of the best centers in the country last year. You got Dustin Keith in there, number 75. He is a converted defensive tackle, trying to fill some big shoes.
2 tight ends on 3rd and less than a yard. Big hole for Harris. He's going to go. Touchdown, Virginia.
Little misdirection by UVA as they run kind of the counter. BYU did a really nice job of getting pressure up the middle, but Arlen Harris, good patience in waiting for that stuff to clear up. A huge hole open. There's a down block on the left side, a good double team at the point of attack by the left side of that line. Jermise Jones back, a guy that they expect big things out of at UVA, left tackle, big 320-pounder.
And the extra point up and good from David Green, the junior from Hampton, Virginia, who's handled the kickoffs the last 2 years. He'll handle all of the kicking chores this year. Arlen Harris, a 28-yard touchdown run, an impressive start to the season for UVA. Arlen Harris king the impressive opening drive. What a great way to christen the new stadium for Virginia. 80 yards at 8 plays, a 28-yard touchdown run by Harris. He rushed for 41 yards on the drive. Mike Rigel cannot return the kickoff from David Green. BYU will start at the 20.
I mentioned Jermise Jones, 6'6", 320-pounder, missed last year. Watch this block. He's coming down on the inside. This is not a double team on Satema Nali. This is where the point of attack is. The left guard blocks down, and Jermise Jones just pancakes. That's what they call that when you roll someone onto their back. Strike one up for him, and that's what opened the hole. A good block also by Washington. Patrick Washington, the fullback, got a nice block up inside as well.
So 1st and 10 for BYU. Brett Engelman is the quarterback, a sophomore from Provo, Utah. Ryan McDonald opens as the lone back behind him. A quick pass to the sideline to Margin Hooks, one of the top receivers in the country now with 26 straight games with at least 1 reception. And he's out near the 28-yard line. Time for the Chili starting lineup. The offensive line for BYU really did an excellent job last week against that great Florida State defense. Reichert, Valgardson, Sukanik, Whiting, and Archibald, the front 5. Hooks with Jonathan Pittman, the wideouts. Ofa Hengawi, a veteran tight end. And McDonald for the injured Luke Staley, out with the concussion. And Sataki the backfield. There's McDonald struggling for first down yardage. It was stood up by Brennan Isabel, the middle linebacker, and Byron Thweet right along the 30-yard line. Good for a first down. Now the Virginia defense. Sanders, Stanley, Pope, and Staminich, the front 4. Thweet will have a disappointing season last year when he was troubled by shoulder injuries, looking to bounce back with Isabel and Crowell. That's the strength of the defense. And the question, as was the case for BYU on defense, the secondary with Sproul and Hawkins, Newby, and Evans.
Hawkins, who wore number 80 as a wide receiver his last 3 years.
This is Sataki, the fullback, on first down out near the 38-yard line. Alani Sataki, senior from St. Louis, Missouri, out of Kirkwood High School, doesn't carry the ball very often, but was their leading rusher last week against Florida State with 20 yards on 5 carries.
And you got to figure that they're going to start, BYU's going to start using the fullback a little more. Luke Staley, we see Brian McDonald in the backfield. Luke Staley, who struggled with some injuries last year, had shoulder and knee surgery in the offseason, is on the sideline. Has a concussion that he suffered against Florida State, had some symptoms through the week. So maybe we'll see Sataki get a little more involved in carrying the ball.
2nd and short. BYU trying to answer the opening score by Virginia. McDonald carries again. Shenard Newby and Ahmad Hawkins combined on the stop, but it's another first down for the Cougars out of the 42.
And we'll look at the Dell game solutions. Early on, BYU must protect Engelman. That left leg is not 100%. His plant leg cannot get him in. Early, we're seeing that they're running the ball, trying to establish that. And for Virginia, the same problem that BYU has is their defensive secondary. They have to mature. They have a guy who's been a receiver his whole career at Virginia, starting at one corner. Tim Sproul is the other corner. He's kind of a high-risk, high-reward. And 2 true sophomores starting at safety.
Engelman wants to throw on first down. He avoided the rush. Now runs with that injured left knee. Out across the 45 where Monsanto Pope made the stop. Engelman was wearing that brace last week against Florida State, even though he didn't have a history of knee injuries. They just wear that as protection. But when he injured his knee, the brace was actually broken while it was on his knee. But here's the scouting report, and as the coaches say, he has just about all the tools to be a great quarterback.
And what I really liked about him in that game against Florida State, amongst all the heat that Florida State brings on quarterbacks, he stood in the pocket, did not get happy feet. He looked like a veteran quarterback in his very first start.
Time in the pocket, and it's dropped by Margin Hook. Perhaps just a little bit behind him, but a ball the junior from Waco, Texas usually catches. He was first team All Mountain West last year when he led the conference in receiving yards with 1,067, averaged 97 yards per game. And this offense needs to get going. You haven't said that about BYU much over the years, but 3 points last week against Florida State and 3 points in their bowl game loss to Marshall. Back-to-back games with just 3 points.
4 games they've lost in a row going back to the last 3 of last year, only averaging 10 points per contest. This is the guy, Brett Engelman, that's going to have to get it done. He's got to get mature again in front of a hostile crowd.
Shotgun snap. He handled the high snap. He dumped it off to Sataki, and he's dumped short of the first down by Byron Thweet. Right at the 50-yard line, 2 yards short of the first down. And the punting unit comes on for the Cougars.
You know, you mentioned Byron Thweet about the shoulder injury he had last year. He actually got hurt against BYU, had a stinger. His whole left side was basically dead for the entire end of the 99 season. He would not come out of the lineup. UVA struggled on defense. They had a lot of guys hurt, but he only had 66 tackles after nearly 100 the 2 years prior.
Aaron Edmonds, the junior, on to punt it to Arlen Harris. A little bit of pressure, but Edmonds got it off. Harris called for the fair catch. It takes a nice soft bounce. There's a flag down. The ball goes dead inside the 2. So let's check out the flag. If it stands, it's a 49-yard punt. Beautifully done by Edmonds. And the flag was thrown right after Arlen Harris, called for the fair catch and then decided to forego that and ran up toward the Cougars, who were rushing downfield.
Edmonds went with a directional kick, tried to get it to the corner. Didn't quite get it far enough to the sideline, but was lucky he got the favorable bounce down around the 3.
The penalties against Virginia.
Illegal block on the return team. Will be post-scrimmage kick enforcement. The fair catch receiver blocked after he made the signal. Half the distance to go. First down.
Well, it's a lot for Arlen Harris to keep track of. He's the first-string tailback. He's on the punt team, the kickoff team, so maybe he doesn't quite know all the rules yet. Virginia.
When he gets that arm waving, he's got to get out of the way.
7-0 Virginia. They're on offense right after this. Back in Charlottesville on a warm and humid afternoon. The temperature in the low 80s with high humidity. And a chance of showers here later. We had a thunderstorm here early this morning. From the 1, Virginia on offense for the second time in the game. They marched impressively 80 yards the first time with the ball. This time Dan Ellis just looking for a little breathing room as he pushed it out near the 3. Chris Hoke drove him back. How about the Dell game solutions when Virginia has the ball?
They need to create an identity. We saw in their first drive that they spread the ball out some. They did go to their I formation. Arlen Harris ran the ball well. Right now it looks like they're trying to find an identity, a multi-formation offense. For BYU, they need to find some corners. Last week, that was really the struggle against Florida State, was they had some guys out there who didn't have a whole lot of experience. Those guys need to settle down and start learning how to play within this system.
Antoine Womack in now at tailback, trying to bust it outside. He almost got tackled in the end zone. Now he has the first down. Driven out by Dustin Staley. That was harrowing for the Virginia fans for a moment, but Womack turned it into a 13-yard gain.
And here's a guy who's just an absolute ball of energy. He had to sit out last year because of some legal problems, had to get his academics straight. Second team All-ACC back in '99. A little different runner than Arlen Harris. That's what the coaches like at UVA, is you have two different styles. And this guy, Womack, is the one with more straight-ahead speed. He got that corner and got the first down.
He's a little bit bigger than Harris as well. Womack gets the call again. He doesn't quite have the quickness isn't quite as good in the passing game as Arlen Harris. Justin Enna made the tackle. No gain on the play, perhaps even a slight loss. We're more than midway through the first quarter. Virginia leads 7-0.
And this is really the strength of BYU's defense. They have a couple of guys hurt. Jeff Hultree, one of their middle linebackers, is hurt. Justin Enna had a fantastic game against Florida State. He was the Chevy player of the game. 10 tackles. He had a sack, 3 tackles for loss. More than half of what he had all the way to the whole season in '99 against Florida State.
Ellis after the play action fake. Nice catch by Kevin Coffey using his 6'4" frame. Then he's short of a first down out of the 22-yard line. Justin Enna again made the tackle, a gain of 6. Next Saturday night, ABC Sports brings you more great college football. Chris Weinke at number 2 Florida State face Georgia Tech. Some of you will see number 25 Colorado at number 13 USC. That's next Saturday night at 8 Eastern Time, 5 Pacific, right here on ABC Sports. 3rd down and 4 upcoming for Virginia.
And here's where Virginia gets a little different than what you've seen in the past. They go with the 1-back set, 3 wide receivers and a tight end.
Foreman the lone back, and the pass is incomplete. Looking for James Johnson. The ball a little bit out in front of him, hit him in the hands, and he couldn't corral it. So a punt, the first of the year for UVA.
And you start to see what UVA is trying to do offensively against BYU. That time James Johnson running the drag route again. We saw Billy McMullen on the drive before run the exact same route. And George Welsh, he talked about during the offseason reinventing the corporation, doing some things a little bit differently. And right at the start, you see a very different Virginia offense from '99.
Mike Abrams is the punter, junior from Aiken, South Carolina. Mike Rigel signals for the fair catch and makes it at the 33. A 46-yard punt with no return. BYU on offense for the second time. Down 7-0. Back after this. Sean McDonough with Ed Cunningham and Leslie Goodell back in Charlottesville, Virginia. 7-0 Cavaliers. At Scott Stadium. $86 million poured into this facility over the last 3 years. They've added more than 15,000 seats, luxury boxes, improved locker rooms and press box. And on first down for BYU, it's Brett Engemann out in the flat to Kalani Sitake. The fullback tackled almost immediately. Gain of 1. Ahmad Hawkins, a wide receiver up until this, his senior season. Now a quarterback. And so far, so good.
And Rick Lance, a longtime defensive coordinator for George Welsh at UVA, said, I've seen this guy do it in practice all spring, all fall. The question becomes, against a team like BYU, can he do it down in and down out? And also, we're going to see a couple of true freshmen for Coach Lance get in there. He's got a couple of cover guys, Art Thomas, Armando Curry, that he's going to sneak in. He said, I'm going to get him in a couple of plays, hopefully before BYU sniffs it out and goes at him.
Quick pass to the other side to Mike Rigel, and he's out of bounds at the 39-yard line. Short of a first down. Jerton Evans, the safety, made the tackle with help from Byron Thweet. Well, it was a beleaguered UVA defense last year, in part because Thweet was injured. They had several other key injuries. At some points, they were playing 5 freshmen on defense. But the fact of the matter is that they finished 90th in total defense out of 114 Division I-A teams last year. Give up 63 in the bowl game against Illinois, and that's the memory they've had to motivate them through the offseason.
And they did a nice job of turning it into a positive, though. They didn't harp on the mistakes. They knew it had to do with personnel.
Flags down. George Welsh kind of disagreed with Rick Lance, his coordinator. George said, I thought we had a real confidence problem on defense at the end of last season. And Rick Lance said, no, I think it was just a matter of we probably were a 4-7 team on defense with the talent that we had out there.
That's because it's the defensive coordinator's job.
5-yard penalty remains 3rd down.
It's the defensive coordinator's job to make sure that they have confidence. Motion by Brigham Young, and when we talked to Lance Reynolds, the offensive coordinator, the center had a little hitch in his giddy up there on the snap, but Lance Reynolds, the offensive coordinator for BYU, said we came out with all this fancy motion against Florida State, and the only people it fooled was ourselves. So they wanted to simplify a little bit this week. That wasn't much motion. That was just the center making a mistake.
So now 3rd down and 8. For this BYU offense trying to find a rhythm here in 2000. Engemann with time, throws short of a first down for the moment, but now Jonathan Pittman has the first down. Out across the 45 to the 46. Let's head back to Times Square Stadium for another update from John Saunders.
Sean, at the Rose Bowl, Freddie Millins is back to receive this punt for Alabama, and he just takes off. Now, Millins has said he doesn't want to be considered for the Heisman Trophy Award. He better stop doing things like this. Takes it 71 yards for the touchdown. They're up 7-zip. UCLA scored on a short touchdown run. It's tied.
And here in Charlottesville, it's 7-0 Virginia, but BYU's on the move. Another first down completion by Brett Engelman. Ryan McDonald into UVA territory to the 43. Tackled again by Thweet, a gain of 11. And another first down for the Cougars.
It was kind of interesting, Sean, that BYU, an established program, a lot of times when a coach gets to a program and tries to rebuild, he does it with junior college players. But Lavelle Edwards has always gone and got junior college players. Rick's College in Idaho, which is shutting its program down. Snow College, and that Brian McDonald is out of Cerritos Junior College in California. He always gets good productivity out of junior college guys.
McDonald replaced by Marcus Whalen, a true freshman. One thing Whalen and McDonald have in common, they can both run like crazy, in the words of Lance Reynolds, the offensive coordinator. Shenard Newby made the tackle on Whalen. He's from just up the road in Waldorf, Maryland. He was a standout at Thomas Stone High School. Last year played on a team that was 12-0 into the Maryland State Finals. He rushed for more than 1,900 yards there last year.
And you see the personnel change. Whalen, a true freshman, on 2nd and long, a passing down, goes out. That's the toughest part for a true freshman, is picking up the blocking assignments, especially a Virginia defense that will start to blitz as the game wears on.
Will Snowden joins McDonald in the backfield now. Engelman with time and a receiver. Short of a first down to the 36 goes the tight end Doug Jolly. They play a lot of two tight ends with Jolly and Tavita Ofahengawi. And that one will bring up 3rd down, about 3.
It's interesting you brought up Will Snowden. They ran him in for Marcus Whalen, and Snowden had to pick up Byron Thweet on the outside linebacker blitz.
Lavelle Edwards in his 29th and final season as head coach decided over the winter that this would be his last campaign. Announced it in August. 6 straight completions now for Engelman. We'll look to throw again on 3rd down. And another first down. Rigel nearly gave up the first down yardage after he was driven back. Donnie Green made the tackle. Rigel got the first down yardage back at the 31. And an impressive drive for the Cougars, who made it into the red zone just once last week against Florida State and scored 3 points to narrowly avoid being shut out for the first time since 1975.
And the key is that defense gets to sit on the sideline a little bit. Boy, against Florida State, the coaches for BYU, Ken Schmidt, the defensive coordinator, was so impressed that his guys did not wilt in the heat of Florida. They don't have a lot of depth up front. They're very good, but those guys over there are able to relax a little bit in this humidity.
With 2 minutes left in the opening quarter, McDonald staggered after taking the handoff and got back to the line of scrimmage, and that's all. Pressure from the end, Darrell Sanders.
Darrell Sanders, one of the guys who sat out 99. 6 players returned to the team, 2 from injury, 4 were personal reasons or suspended for academics. There was also a on-campus fight back in February of 99 that a bunch of guys had to go take care of. But Sanders back. He was fighting a little bit of an ankle during training camp, but all the guys that came back, Sean, will be contributors on this 2000 squad.
Play clock down to 2. 2nd and 10. That's a lateral. Jolly wanted to throw it, I think, but Thweet was there. Well, if Byron Thweet is looking to have a bounce-back season after the disappointing 1999, he's off to a great start toward that goal in the first quarter today.
And boy, if Jolly could have got that off, Jonathan Pittman was wide open down the field. Virginia playing a very aggressive stop-the-run defense. This was set up as a throw right from the start. But Thweet always plays a speed game. Runs around. He's an outside linebacker. Very good blitzer. He's been very active today, Sean. When we met with him the other day, you could see in his eyes he was very disappointed about 99. And he would put it on his shoulders to have a better 2000.
Doug Jolly was going to throw, did come to BYU as a quarterback and switched to tight end in 1998. 3 wide receivers. Engelman has to burn a timeout with the play clock about to expire. 3rd down and 19 upcoming for the Cougars from the Virginia 41.
Timeout.
College football on ABC Sports, brought to you by Ford Motor Company, by Chili's. I want my Chili's baby back ribs only at Chili's. By Dell, providing the infrastructure to power your e-business, and by Courtyard by Marriott, the hotel designed by business travelers.
One of the problems BYU had, Robbie Bosco right there in the middle of your screen, the quarterback's coach who took BYU to its only national championship back in 1984 as a starting quarterback. Talking to Brett Ingeman, but one of the problems that the BYU offense had last week was they didn't give up as many sacks, I think, as a lot of people thought, but they had too many backwards plays with penalties, fumbled snaps, things of that nature. And that time they give up the big sack. Well, I guess you could call it a sack because it was going to be a throw by Jolly.
Vel Edwards will turn 70 next month, as he has a lot more he wants to do in life, and he just felt like this was the time to go. And he probably would have done it after last season, Ed, but it was such a disappointing finish, the 3 straight losses. He just didn't want to go out that way. And he said he really likes this group of young men and wanted to coach this particular bunch one more time.
And we found out why. I mean, when we met with him the other night, it was Thursday night late. They'd flown all day. I mean, guys were lining up to come in and talk to us. He has a good group of guys out there that work hard. He's got talent. The whole question becomes, can they start to establish some type of offense? Towards the end of the first quarter, you're not used to seeing a BYU team with nothing on the scoreboard.
10th play of the drive, and a tough call for the new offensive coordinator, Lance Reynolds, taking over from Norm Chow, who went on to join Chuck Amato's new staff at NC State. Again, the play clock down to 2 as Engelman took the snap. He's in trouble and sacked. Larry Simmons, a redshirt freshman, reserve defensive lineman. They're going to play a lot of people up front today in the heat because they say BYU's offensive front is so big and physical. We need lots of bodies to counteract that.
And the pressure comes from the right side of the defensive line. Lubomir Stamanic on the outside here is going to get up the field and cause Ingeman as the pocket collapses. They didn't get off of their blockers on the right side, but they pushed the pocket into the lap of Ingeman. He runs sideways. What a nice job by Larry Simmons coming off of his block and reading the quarterback trying to get out of the pocket.
That's the end of the first quarter. Virginia has a 7-0 lead over Brigham Young University. On to the second quarter here in Charlottesville. Virginia leading 7-0, and BYU about to punt. Jeff Holtry is a one-handed snapper.
A little unusual. Most guys put 2 hands on the football. Holtry was not even supposed to play, but they needed him for his snap ability.
Ordinarily a starting linebacker, not playing linebacker because of a sprained knee suffered last week. Another good punt by Edmonds. Last time he pinned them inside the 2. And this time Aaron Edmonds pins them inside the 6. A 40-yard punt. After a 1-1 tie in terrible conditions and in a hostile environment, the U.S. men return to their home turf for a rematch against Guatemala. World Cup qualifying soccer, USA versus Guatemala, tomorrow live at 2 Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, right here on ABC Sports.
You know, it's good to see Aaron Edmonds angle kicking that. I played for Pete Rodriguez, a special teams coach in the NFL, one of the best. He never let his punters punt it down the middle of the field.
Arlen Harris turns the corner, had some running room. Crowd thought he was going to go, but then he was upended by Alon Edwards, a reserve safety, number 25, a junior from Boulder, Colorado, who attended the University of Colorado before he transferred to BYU. He started 7 games in the secondary last year.
First 2 possessions for Virginia, the touchdown on the great drive, and then they stalled a little bit on their second with the 5 plays and had to punt it away.
They haven't had great field position. The best starting field position was the 20 after the opening kickoff. 2nd and 4, Harris fighting to reach the first down marker. And Brett Kiesel brought him down with help from Isaac Kelly.
You have a feeling George Welsh walked over to Gary Tranquil and called him up in the box and said, hey, Gary, enough with the spread formation stuff. Let's line up in the eye. We got Arlen Harris. Like him as a tailback. Start handing it off. Of course, down inside your own 20-yard line, you're going to protect it a little better.
When we talked with Dan Ellis the other day, we said, well, you're the returning veteran quarterback now. Thomas Jones is gone. Maybe you'll throw it more. He said, as long as George Welsh is the coach here, we're going to be a running team. He's won a lot of games with that running attack. Pass caught on third down and short. A nice catch by Chris Luzar, the backup tight end, a junior from Williamsburg, Virginia, who has a brother, Case, who's a freshman on this UVA team. First down, Wahoos.
And here is where a veteran quarterback like Dan Ellis really makes a team like BYU pay the price. BYU brought pressure.
Calling a few pals? Grab a Miller Lite. It's Miller time.
Hey guys, hanging out? I'll hang out.
Comes in handy, huh?
It's a lifesaver.
We're looking for a new VP of our Northeast operations. Stop by my office later.
Hey, Ken, aren't you the VP of Northeast Operations?
Imagine what the Journal could do for you. Get 8 weeks of the Journal for just 38 cents a day, a 50% savings. Call 800-535-7600. That's 800-535-7600.
You know, athletes are pretty well known for their superstitions, but I gotta be honest, our guys can be pretty quirky, too.
Have a good show, Ken.
You too. There's this one time Brian had a great show, didn't bathe for 17 days straight.
This year, though, it's been a very different story.
The worst had to be when Dan spilled clam chowder, Manhattan clam chowder, all over Reese. Had his best show ever. Of course, that got old for Reese really quickly.
Yeah.
He's in makeup.
Okay.
Welcome back to the GalleryFurniture.com poll, where A&M leads 28-9 with 2:25 left. And here's our Capital One player of the game, a true freshman, Byron Jones, who hadn't had an interception before, but today he records 3, playing in place of Sean Weston, who was a late scratch, the normal starter at the quarterback position with a hyperextended knee. And what
Receptions out in Provo, but they went for 55 yards. This one almost gets all of that with a 42-yarder. What a nice laid out. And Ellis gets pounded into the turf at the end of this throw by Hans Olsen. But, you know, when you get knocked down like that, but it's a 42-yard gain, you don't really feel those lumps.
Now back to the ground, a big hole for Arlen Harris. Breaking tackles. Edwards finally able to drag him down, but it's another first down for UVA. A gain of 13 near the 26-yard line, and Arlen Harris is still down on the far sideline.
It looked funny the way the BYU defenders landed on the back of his leg, Sean. When they dove on top of him, they had a back of his jersey and his leg stayed behind him. And I could not tell who landed on the back of his knee. There was some inside-out pursuit coming, but it didn't look good how they landed on it.
Arlen Harris, a sophomore from Exton, Pennsylvania, same hometown and same high school as the starting quarterback Dan Ellis, who's 2 years ahead of him. And here's a look. It was Elon Edwards trying for a long time to drag down Harris. He finally was successful, and then came a late hit.
It was the left ankle that got underneath Edwards as Edwards was holding on, trying to drag down Harris. It was the left ankle that looked like that got twisted under the body of Elon Edwards. Watch the left leg as Edwards goes down, gets stuck under the turf. But a nice cheer for Arlen Harris. He's come out, you know, Sean, not really well known. He only got 112 yards backing up Thomas Jones, but comes out early in front of the biggest crowd ever at the University of Virginia, runs that hard. You're going to get a nice cheer as you come off the field.
And he could have gone just about anywhere out of high school. Dan Ellis says when he was coming out of Downingtown High School, everybody was recruiting him. Ellis said, hey, why don't you consider Virginia, thinking that Arlen Harris really wouldn't. And Harris came down here and liked it. And here he is, a member of the Cavaliers, replaced now by Antoine Womack. The good news is he walked off and didn't appear to be in tremendous pain. The run gives them a first down at the 26. Already 7-0 Virginia. Early in the second quarter, the Cavs trying to add to their lead. On the delay, Womack, the offensive line, doing a great job opening holes. And again, Edwards, the safety man, had to make a tackle with help from Isaac Kelly, the outside linebacker. Pickup of 7 for Womack, the junior from Hampton, Virginia. Let's head back to Times Square Stadium. Once again, here's John.
Sean, Alabama ranked number 3 falls for some trickery here. Freddie Mitchell on the reverse. Sets up, heaves it towards the end zone. Brian Pauly-Dixon, great catch in the corner. And UCLA now leads by a touchdown. Sean, back to you.
Ellis with a lot of time on second down now runs out of time and throws it away.
And here's a new rule in the NCAA this year. They've basically gone to the NFL rule. Once the quarterback gets 5 yards away from the original position of the football outside of the pocket, as long as he throws the ball at or beyond the line of scrimmage, it is no longer intentional grounding. So Dan does not have to try to find a wide receiver down the field to get it near. He's able to throw the ball away. As long as he gets outside that line, which is about 5 yards away from the original spot, he's safe just to throw it away. Good job of knowing the rule, and I guarantee you George Welsh, as disciplined a coach as he has, drilled that into them during spring and fall practice.
3rd down and 3 at the BYU 20. Little option pitch to Womack. First down inside the 10. And out of bounds near the 4-yard line. Isaac Kelly and Elon Edwards again combining on the stop. Shaky tackling that time from the Cougars. A gain of 15. 1st and goal UVA.
One of the problems BYU had against Florida State, a really nice play out of the shotgun, run an option, and Justin Enna loses his footing. It rained heavily last night. You wonder if his feet just gave out from under him because the field is still wet. But that was one of the problems BYU had early against Florida State, was making the open field tackle.
Another impressive drive. Started near their own 5-yard line. Now they're at the BYU 5. 1st and goal. Straight ahead. Man, that time Womack took a lick from Jared Lee, the senior from Rexburg, Idaho, 23 years old, older than many college football players in the same class, as many of the Cougars are, because many of them have gone on LDS missions in the Mormon church. And in the case of Jared, he spent a couple of years over in Italy serving his church.
And those 2 years away from school are a lot of work. When we talked to the guys the other night, it's 9:30 in the morning till 9:30 at night. You're out on the road trying to pass on the word of the Mormon church. It is not a vacation.
2nd and goal. Womack again. Touchdown, Virginia.
One of the strengths of UVA for the last few years has been their offensive line, but it was kind of a question mark coming in. This is the exact same play run to the right side. Down blocks on the point of attack. The backside guard and the umpire lucky to not blow out his knee as Antoine Womack goes down, but just great blocking at the point of attack.
Really admired Darrell Johnson, the umpire. He bounced right back up. Here's David Green adding the extra point, putting the finishing touches on a 95-yard drive. 14-0 Cavaliers here in Charlottesville. Antoine Womack with the touchdown to cap the 2nd impressive drive of the day for Virginia. 95 yards, the big play, the reception by Demetrius Dotson. It's 14-0 Virginia. And Mike Rigel takes a knee down into David Green, kickoff in the end zone. Blocking's been tremendous for UVA.
Kind of got lucky. Jared Woodson, a 285-pound left guard, is going to pull. And Jared Lee, the strong safety, has the very difficult task of trying to take him on. He does his very best, but that's a mismatch that UVA is going to win 10 times out of 10.
We talk about taking the place of Thomas Jones. Womack has rushed for 39 yards and a touchdown on just 6 carries, and Arlen Harris 62 yards on 8 carries and a touchdown. So they're up over 100 yards already.
I still don't think these fans are going to say Thomas who at the end of this ball game.
Brian McDonald alone back behind Brett Engelman, and his errant pass over the head of Doug Jolly and short of Jonathan Pittman. Tough to tell for whom that was intended. Time for today's Aflac trivia question. In the 90s, what 3 former Virginia receivers had 1,000-yard seasons in the NFL?
One of them's brothers on the field right now.
Okay.
That's the only hint. Knowing you, you know. You probably wrote that question.
No, I did not. But I have an inkling on at least a couple of them. They have you know, with all the emphasis on the running game here, they do have a terrific tradition of outstanding receivers. We've mentioned some of the names, but we don't want to give away the trivia question right now. Look out. Engelman ran into McDonald, a botched handoff attempt, and Engelman had to fall on it back at the 10-yard line, and he stays down in the grass, a little shaky. Well, they're in the midst of their worst stretch ever under Lavelle Edwards on offense, and it is continuing here this afternoon.
Well, you've got Engelman went to the wrong side of Brian McDonald. Went down on that left leg. He went knee first, and he was really struggling when he got up. But Lavelle Edwards, he's got some young guys back there. He's got to get them going in the right direction. You can't score points on offense unless your guys know which direction to go.
He mentioned the numbers, averaging 10 points per game over the last 4, all the losses coming in. Worst 4-game stretch ever under Lavelle, and that problem continues today. Engelman on 3rd and a mile, intercepted. Tim Sproul made the play. UVA takes over with great field position at the 36-yard line.
And you have to wonder, Sean, if that left plant leg of Brett Engelman does not have something to do with this interception. A zone coverage, Sproul underneath the wide receiver, and this ball just comes out slow, high, and it's wobbling the whole way. That allowed Sproul to come back from his underneath coverage, get up and make a great one-handed reception. But I wonder if that left leg of Engelman does not have a lot to do with it. Watch how funny this ball comes out. He's shifting his weight a little different. That left leg, he's not planning on it, and he's not comfortable.
Well, it was a desperate situation on 3rd and long yardage. Ellis after a play-action fake trying to set up a screen. The Cougars sniffed that one out. Now Ellis will run and just dive back near the original line of scrimmage.
Safe to say that that is not the forte of Dan Ellis's game. He's running with the football. He knew to get to the sideline and get down as quickly as he possibly could.
It was a nice start to the season for Tim Sproul. He had a real up-and-down season last year. Now a senior cornerback. We mentioned the cornerbacks on each team, the big question marks. And Sproul said, "I'm tired of being toast." That's the way he described his season of last year. He did have an interception in the BYU game out in Provo last year that set up a touchdown. That was one of his best games. He also scored a touchdown on a recovered lateral. Tyree Foreman, the third part of that three-headed monster, as offensive lineman Brad Barnes calls this trio, trying to replace Thomas Jones. And Foreman has a first down to the 23 with a pickup of 13.
And Foreman got a lot of time at the end of the year in '99. A couple of guys banged up. He became the #1 backup to Thomas Jones. Had a huge game against Georgia Tech. Scored the game-clinching touchdown. He rushed for a career-high 58 yards against Georgia Tech. Fans went wild and tore the goalpost down after that victory.
Foreman, the only back. Again, 3 wide receivers. Great push off the line of scrimmage by that Virginia line. Temanali made the tackle as Foreman crossed the 20 and went down at the 19. Well, yesterday we chatted with George Welsh, asked him about some of these unsung heroes.
There's probably a couple on defense, like maybe Monsanto Pope. If he can stay healthy, I think we've got a real jewel defensive lineman there. But we've got guys like Pat Washington, who's been in the program for 5 years, was elected captain, is a great fullback in our system. And then you have a guy like Tyree Foreman, who hasn't had much time up to now. This is his 3rd year in the program. He's a very versatile and probably one of our smartest football players.
Ellis avoiding the rush of Josh Lowe, and he found Billy Baber, the tight end, for a gain of 14. Just about every play that Gary Tranquil is calling up is working to perfection now for Virginia.
And here's where a guy like Dan Ellis, who is a starting quarterback for the 2nd year, played as a true freshman back in '97, turns around. It's so hard when you turn your back and they rush the outside linebacker Josh Lowe, but he knew exactly where Baber was going to be. So when he gets around, if that guy's in his face, he knows who to dump it to.
Virginia trying to open up a big first half lead. Here's that unsung hero Foreman scoring a touchdown.
Once again for BYU, it's all about missed tackles. The first 2 rushing touchdowns, Sean, you and I could have scampered through to the end zone, but this time Jared Lee as Tyree Foreman dead to rights. A full house backfield to get both Washington and Arlen Harris up there blocking for him, and he runs through the arms of Jared Lee, who is probably the best tackler coming up from that safety spot for BYU. But Foreman, 225 pounds, a load to bring down.
David Green right down the middle with the extra point. And it is all Cavaliers here in the first half. The lead grows to 21-0 after the touchdown run by the junior from Sandy Spring, Maryland, Tyree Foreman. On this warm and humid afternoon in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Great start to the 111th season of football at the University of Virginia. A 21-0 lead over BYU. Paul Peterson thought about bringing out the kickoff from David Green and then took a knee. So again, poor field position, and the Cougars looking for anything to get this offense started.
And you got to start to wonder if Robbie Bosco, who's talking to Brett Ingeman right now, might not start thinking about putting Charlie Peterson into the ball game. Ingeman did not look very healthy on that last drive, and I really think that that interception was due to his left knee.
And we talked about the numbers, just 10 points per game. There's Peterson, who was neck and neck in preseason with Ingeman for the starting job. They alternated quarters last week against Florida State. They've averaged just 32 rushing yards per game over the last 4 and under 300 yards per game passing. And they haven't been able to kick it into gear here today. There's a timely pass from Ingeman up to Margin Hooks for a gain of 9. And here are the numbers. Over the last 13 games, the previous 9, their usual numbers, 33 points per game. But over the last 4, the numbers drop off in eye-popping fashion.
And most people would look at almost 280 yards passing and say, what's the problem? That's a lot of yards. But you got to remember, they were behind in all of those ball games. At the end, all they were doing was letting Kevin Federick air it out.
Ryan McDonald, the tailback, following the block, and a good one from the fullback, Sataki. First down, Devon Simmons, another one of those Virginia defenders who was suspended last year and has returned this season, made the tackle. He's a junior safety out of Highland Springs, Virginia.
And in all fairness to Brett Ingeman, on Monday, the BYU coaches really didn't think he was going to be able to go this week. They said he could barely walk around. He did his time in the training room getting the swelling. It was an MCL sprain, a grade 1 MCL sprain. They really didn't think he was going to be able to play. He fought through because he knew he played well enough against Florida State to earn the right to start this game and stay in the ball game as long as he was healthy. So hats off to him, but I wonder how healthy he is right now.
He clearly played better than Charlie Peterson last week against the Seminoles. Has nowhere to throw it. Finally shovels it to Sataki. He's out to the 42-yard line. Well short of a first down.
Larry Simmons takes another hit on Ingeman, but that was a very heads-up play by Brett to just get that ball out, pick up some positive yards on a play that really could have ended in disaster for BYU. Again, another negative yards play turns into a 5-yard gain.
Ingeman's a sophomore, but he's older because he did spend time on the LDS mission, Latter-day Saints mission in Boston, in the inner city of Roxbury and Dorchester, some of the toughest neighborhoods in the city of Boston. Spent 2 years there. They empty the backfield. They go to the quick pass to Mike Rigel, and he's just short of the first down. It'll be third down and about 1 at the 46-yard line. 5.5 minutes left in the first half. We're in Charlottesville, Virginia. First game of the season for UVA, coming off a 7-5 season of a year ago. BYU with its second game of 2000 after the loss in the Pigskin Classic in Jacksonville last week, 29-3. A lot of travel to the East Coast here early in the season. They went to Jacksonville and back, now to Charlottesville. And they'll travel nearly 11,000 miles in all this year. On third down and short, McDonald driven back. Great extra effort. Might have picked up the first down. Tim Spruill pulled him down, but it looked like they had him stop short of the first down. McDonald might have it now.
And here's something the UVA coaches talked about that they were going to do just a little bit different. Always have played a lot of 2-deep zone here at Virginia. but they're trying to get their defensive backfield a little more involved in stopping the run. They spent some time with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers during the offseason. George Welsh and his defensive staff down there run about the same type of defense in Virginia they do in Tampa, but they noticed how quickly the safeties for Tampa Bay were getting to the line of scrimmage. That time, Jerton Evans gets up to make the tackle.
The inside handoff to Brian McDonald. That was an interesting conversation with Rick Lance about that yesterday. He said the other thing he wanted to show his defenders on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tape is there are no loafers out there, and their teammates don't tolerate loafers. Everybody runs to the football all the time, and Rick felt perhaps that didn't always happen here last year.
And let me tell you something. When you pop in a tape and you show these 18, 19-year-old guys, a guy like Warren Sapp or John Lynch, guys who are making millions of dollars a year in their late 20s, early 30s, given that type of effort, the guys in the blue shirts are going to say, okay, I understand how you want us to play.
The Cougars have moved out to midfield, but Engelman's going to burn another timeout with 2nd and 6 upcoming. The Cougars in dire need of a score, something to ignite the offense. They're down by 21. BYU with the football, down by 21 points. Cougars just burned their 2nd timeout of the first half. They have it 2nd down and 6 near midfield. Engelman under a heavy rush gets it off. Ofa Hengawe, the tight end, with a nifty move. And that move yielded lots more yardage down to the 17-yard line. Finally, Rashad Roberson able to take out Ofa Hengawe, a gain of 32.
Ofa Hengawe right here. He's got one-on-one. What a nice move he throws on the safety, Shenard Newby. Newby, one of the true freshmen who had to play last year, now just a sophomore. But this is a big guy, 250 pounds. Had one-on-one coverage with the safety. Throws a nice move. A little bit of time for Engelman. He finds his big tight end.
He had some of the few big plays against Florida State last week. He had 3 catches for 75 yards. And now they're in the red zone for just the 2nd time this season. Engelman in the flat. Nice catch by Rigel. Lost the football. Virginia seems to have it, and they do. Well, the turnovers were a killer last week for BYU. They had 4, and the touchdown drought lingers on. 9+ quarters without a TD. George Stanley recovered the fumble.
And you already mentioned about Florida State, how BYU hurt themselves with the turnovers. This is a nice hit to break the ball loose from Rigel. Rigel just fighting for extra yardage. Has that ball, did not tuck it away as we give a listen.
It was Jerton Evans, the safety, who came up and delivered that big blow. Another shot into their own foot from the Cougar offense. And here's Womack with that push from the offensive line again, leading the way out to the 24-yard line. A quality gain of about 8 on 1st down for Womack, who's had a couple of off-the-field problems, twice charged with assault. And it seemed for a long time that he would never come back to this Virginia program.
And he's on the field because right in there is Jerton Evans, and Evans had a huge game last year against Brigham Young.
Nice moves by Womack. 1st down. Tyson Smith made the tackle. Out across the 30 went Womack, and it was Evans who had the game-clinching interception of the last 2 minutes, as it turned out, when they were protecting that 5-point lead, and BYU was throwing into the end zone in pro ball.
We already mentioned how many true freshmen had to play last year. He was one of them, and his first career start was against Brigham Young out in Pro Bowl. He had a one-handed, beautiful interception in the first quarter, and then, of course, he had the diving interception to seal the game in the end zone at BYU.
Ellis going deep, a collision and a flag. Kevin Coffey, the intended receiver. Dustin Staley collided with him, and the flag thrown in BYU territory.
I don't know, Sean. Staley was in coverage. He's running. He has his back to the wide receiver. They got tangled up. It looked like incidental contact, and Dan Ellis gets a lot of air under this ball. I'm wondering if it's even catchable.
It's against Virginia. A push-off apparently on Coffey. That's a good call.
I don't know, Sean.
I mean, if you're going to throw the flag at all, it has to be on Koff.
But I'm saying either way, both of those guys, I mean, they just put their hands on each other. It wasn't like they were changing each other's motion or movement by putting their hands on. I think maybe that flag goes back in the pocket.
Pass interference, offense, 15-yard penalty, previous spot. First down.
Well, when George gets upset, the hat comes off. So George didn't like that call.
It's hot under there.
Yes, it is hot anyway on this warm and humid day, but he can do the low seethe and simmer. What a job he's done. The winningest coach in the history of two major programs, Navy and Virginia. Now in his 18th season on this beautiful campus. Womack on first and forever gets half of forever. Out back near the original line of scrimmage, the 33-yard line. Jared Lee made the tackle, a pickup of 15. That makes it a very manageable down and distance now. Second down and about 9.
And Jared Lee comes up. We saw him miss the tackle on the touchdown. Womack this time does a better job of getting around. Womack, such a strong running back. You've already seen the guns hanging out from those jerseys. This guy is a for real athlete, very strong, and Jared Lee that time does a nice job wrapping him up around the waist.
Go back to a two-back look at Patrick Washington, the fullback. And it's Womack across the 35, tackled by Isaiah Joyner and Justin Enna. How about the answer to that Aflac trivia question? The 3 former Virginia receivers who've had 1,000-yard seasons in the NFL in the 90s. Herman Moore's definitely one.
I think Patrick Jeffers is the guy that
last year.
Jermaine Crowell had 1,000 yards for Detroit last year. So
we got them all. The fact that they showed us the answer ahead of time had nothing to do with the fact that we could recite those 3 names.
Where was I when they showed that?
No, they didn't show us. But we just didn't want to act like we were too smart in the first game of the year in our new home. 3rd down and 6. Minute and a half left in the half. Ellis under duress. Throws incomplete. Well over the head of Billy McMullen with Satema Nali providing the heat. So time for BYU, but remember they burned 2 timeouts. They won't have very good field position in all likelihood after this punt.
Can still throw to the middle of the field, however. With the chains move, you get a first down. That clock stops. That's something that colleges know how to take advantage of.
In the old days with this BYU offense, no problem. Minute 24, 1 timeout, bing, 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 touchdown. But the way this offense is staggering, here's Abrams, the punter. Very high kick, wobbling out of bounds along the near sideline. They spot the ball at the 28, a 35-yard punt. College football on ABC Sports brought to you by Chevrolet Trucks, the most dependable, longest-lasting trucks on the road. By Bud Light, for the great taste that won't fill you up and never let you down, make it a Bud Light. 3Com, home, office, and beyond. Simple sets you free. And Aflac, without it, no insurance is complete.
You know, you mentioned the name of the stadium. There's the Carl Smith Center etched in a lot of. What's the name of the stadium again?
Carl Smith Center, home of David A. Harrison III Field at Scott Stadium.
You know, we just had the billboard for 3Com. It makes you kind of wonder. Wish for a name like 3Com Park or FedEx Field or something.
You on the payroll of those particular companies?
No.
Engelman on first down. Pump fake. Look out. Nearly stripped. Sacked. Lou Staminich couldn't get the ball out, but he did come up with the sack. The junior, whose parents came here from Serbia. Rick Lance said, I told Lou, the Cougars, those BYU guys, they're all Bosnians.
He also said Staminich is one of those guys who doesn't have enough talent to be good. He just doesn't know it.
On second and long, there he is again. Staminich with another sack back at the 23-yard line. He had 2 sacks last year in the meeting out in Provo. He's from Great Falls, Virginia, out of Langley High School, a junior. Yeah, that was a great quote. He doesn't really have the talent to be a great player, but Lou doesn't know that. Coming up on the Valvoline Halftime 2000, John Saunders and Terry Bowden with scores and highlights, and Terry will examine the role of the quarterback in the 21st century. That's coming up in seconds. Engelman throwing the deep ball, and it is underthrown and caught by Pittman on the deflection. Well, we talked about how Sproul had an up-and-down year last year, and he's just had an up-and-down half now with that one. It looked like it was going to be his second interception of the game. Instead, It winds up as a deflection to Pittman for 35 yards.
And Sproul, as Engelman's just going to kill the ball to save, because you mentioned that they're down to 1 timeout.
9 seconds left as they kill it at the Virginia 43.
But you mentioned the tough year that Sproul had last year. It's because he's one of those corners who's high risk, high reward. Again, an underthrown pass by Engelman, and Sproul not able. Last time he had the one-hand interception. That time it bounces off. And what a fantastic job of Pittman staying in the play. Gets underneath of it, makes the grab.
Jonathan Pittman, senior from Los Angeles. Lance Reynolds said he's slippery, and he was kind of slippery on that play. Second year at BYU after 2 at Long Beach City College, where he was a junior college All-American, set virtually every school receiving record there.
And how much would Lavelle Edwards like to take his team into the locker room, at least with 3 points on the board? Pochman has kicked field goals in the last 2 ball games against FSU and Marshall.
They didn't get the play off. Even after they killed the clock, they spent so much time discussing the play. By the time they were over the ball, they had no time.
Prior to the snap, false start, offense, 5-yard penalty, remains 2nd down.
Well, one of the things that you do not associate with Lavelle's teams over the years are key mistakes, and they had 10 penalties against the Seminoles last weekend, the 4 turnovers, and now turnovers and penalties starting to add up again today.
And that time, Dustin Reichert, the left tackle, was going by the motion of the defensive line. A silent snap count employed by BYU. The leg kick by Engelman tells the center to snap it.
Here comes the blitz, and Engelman's down. Breno Isabel, the middle linebacker, back at the 42-yard line of the Cougars on the final play of the first half. Let's go down to the field. Here's Leslie Goodell with George Welsh.
Coach Welsh told me before the game he was a little bit nervous, but 21-0, he'll take great care of that right away. Just the way you planned it, right, Coach?
Oh, that's the game like last year started 21-0 in our favor, too, except they came back before the half. But I'm still concerned. They have a very good passing attack. If their quarterback settles down, you know, we're going to have to play. We're playing soft zone, and so far we're holding up.
Thanks, Coach.
George is a delightful guy, but if he won the lottery, he'd be thinking about paying the taxes. Tough first half for Engelman. Then the Cougars, they're down 21-0. Back in Charlottesville, Virginia at halftime, the Cavaliers have a 21-0 lead over Brigham Young University. Sean McDonough and Ed Cunningham, we talked at the top of the telecast about Virginia's challenge of replacing the running back Thomas Jones with 3 players, and all 3 were terrific.
And Arlen Harris gets in a touchdown in the exact same play run to the other side. Antoine Womack goes in. Tyree Foreman, who we didn't think was going to get the ball much in the first half. Harris goes down with a little bit of an ankle sprain, runs through the arm tackle of Jared Lee, and these 3 guys have really stepped up to replace Thomas. We said we don't think they're going to leave the stadium this afternoon saying Thomas who, but these 3 guys are all averaging over 7 yards per carry, very productive on the ground.
Combined for 159 yards rushing. Jones, during his All-American season of a year ago, averaged 163.5. BYU will get the ball first to begin the second half. David Green kicks it away to Paul Peterson. Cougars move the ball in spurts in the first half, but very little sustained offense again. And another very good kickoff by Green. Down by Peterson. Now let's take a look at the Morgan Stanley Dean Witter first half stats. The 2 turnovers were costly, just 2 rushing yards for BYU.
And that's a little misleading. In college football, your sacks go against your rushing total. 20 yards in sacks, but still 22 yards rushing by BYU is not enough. But really the big difference is down here. 3.9 yards per play by BYU. Again, a little misleading. They had the big pass play to Pittman there at the end of the half. 8 yards every time Virginia snaps the ball. They've been very efficient and shown a lot of different looks to Brigham Young.
Brett Engelman looking to throw on first down. He was very accurate in the first half, and he's on target to Jonathan Pittman with some running room, out of bounds with a first down out of the 37-yard line. Gain of 17. Jerton Evans pushed him out. A moment ago, Leslie Goodell chatted with Lavelle Edwards, and the thing that he spoke about first, Ed, was his disappointment with the tackling of the BYU defense.
BYU has had some chances, both the rushing touchdowns by Womack and Arlen Harris. No one was going to tackle those guys anyway because of great blocking, but there's been some open field missed tackles. The safeties have had to come up for BYU against this Virginia ground attack, and they just haven't been able to get down Womack, Harris, or Foreman.
On offense, he said he's just looking for better execution. They're executing now. Here's Margin Hooks into UVA territory and down at the 43-yard line with another first down.
Margin Hooks is the best receiver in this BYU offense. He had 4 catches last week against Florida State. They run a layered route across the front. Jerton Evans allows Hooks to go in front of him. He is in too deep safe zone. Virginia playing a lot of soft zone. When you get back in that soft zone, it makes a team earn in the passing game, earn every yard that they got, and BYU has not done that, and now they're just starting to take advantage of that soft zone.
Engelman's 15 out of 19 passing. This time he hands it off to Brian McDonald. They just about doubled their rushing total with that short gain. Angelo Crowell, the younger brother of Jermaine Crowell, the former standout receiver here at UVA in the mid-90s, who's now in the NFL with the Lions. Angelo made the tackle, sophomore from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, in a great battle in the preseason with Donnie Green at linebacker, and he won that battle.
And he came out of spring ball as kind of the shining gem of this defense. Donnie Green had been a starter in 97 and 98. But because of the progress that Crowell made in spring ball and on into fall camp, he held off a guy that everyone expected to be in the starting lineup.
2nd and 6. They bring the heat. Engelman bounced off the rush, throws a completion for a first down to Soren Halliday. His first career catch for the junior from Newhall, California, and what a time for it. It gives BYU a first down inside the 10. We saw the strength of Brett Engelman dodging that rush.
Really not. The blitz comes from Byron Thweet on the left side. He ducked his head. That's a mistake as a linebacker. You don't have to go for the big hit. Just make the sack. But that is what impressed the BYU coaches by Brett Engelman against Florida State. When he was able to stand in that rush, he just gets a little sidestep. Does not run for his life. Just buys himself a little time.
First and goal from the 8. Back to the ground, and McDonald gets 2. Jerton Evans and Merrill Robertson made the tackle on McDonald.
You know, Sean, Dan Marino, at the end of his career, he had blown out his Achilles, played for about 4 years, could barely move. It was amazing how much time he bought in the pocket. He couldn't get out of the way very quickly, so he would just sidestep. Engelman, only in his second start, very impressed with how he buys just another second of time. Does not have to run. Robbie Bosco, one of the all-time leading passers at BYU, the quarterback coach, that's not something he can coach. It just has to happen.
Play action fake. Engelman on the rollout. Throws it dangerously into the end zone. The receiver peeled off. Engelman pressured by Lou Staminich and lost his helmet. They met personally at the end of the half, and Staminich sacked him on successive plays.
Engelman not happy. No question. This is a naked bootleg. Unblocked is Staminich. He comes out, Staminich just lays a lick, but that's very difficult when you call a play like that with a hurt quarterback. That's a difficult call.
3rd down and goal from the 6. Lots of noise from this big crowd. They go to the ground game. McDonald, touchdown, the first of the season. First in 10 quarters for BYU, and he'll avoid being shut out for the 314th consecutive game. Longest current streak along those lines in college football, dating back to when Gerald Ford was president in 1975.
And I like how BYU comes out in the second half. They don't really push the panic button, start to establish the running game. That time, Brian McDonald, a JUCO transfer, filling in for Luke Staley. Really nice read on the fullback's block.
And a great call by Lance Reynolds. 3rd down and goal from the 6. You'd expect to pass. They fooled him with the run, and McDonald has his first Cougar touchdown. The extra point good from Owen Potchman, and it's 21-7 Virginia. At long last, the first touchdown of the season for BYU after an impressive 80-yard drive. Brian McDonald scored when he was what we were calling a nice call by the coaching staff. It looked like they wanted to get out of that play.
Well, wait a minute. Watch Kalani Sitake, the fullback. What a nice job on Sherrod Newby. The safety comes out, and McDonald, who ran for over 2,000 yards in his 2-year career at Cerritos Junior College, does a really nice job. Patience for the fullback's block to send up, run it inside. Robbie Bosco runs to the side, gets back on the headsets to Lance Reynolds and says, "Brilliant call, coach."
That's right. Unlike the basketball player who accept the shot, the coach says no, and then it goes in. Good shot. Good shot. Antoine Womack waiting for the Owen Potchman kickoff. Low bouncing kick taken by Womack at the 2. And he's chopped down at the 22-yard line. Tackled by Elon Edwards and Colby Bockwalt. College football on ABC Sports, brought to you by the all-new Aztec from Pontiac. Quite possibly the most versatile vehicle on the planet. Morgan Stanley, Dean Witter, move your money, get well connected. Original Cores. When you're an original, you do it your own way. Original Cores. And the United States Army. Be all you can be.
And UVA comes out showing another different look. 2 tight ends, 1 back set.
And Arlen Harris, who dinged up an ankle early in the game, is the lone running back. And goes straight up the middle. Well, Lavelle Edwards said he was disappointed with how easily Virginia ran through his team in the first half. They were ready for that run up the middle, and Harris stacked up for no gain.
And the BYU defense last week against Florida State really came out in the second half and shut down a very good Florida State offense. I mean, they made some great adjustments. It all started up front with Hans Olsen. We look at second half, -2 yards rushing for Florida State, 7 points. That came with 1 minute and 11 seconds left. BYU actually held Florida State scoreless for 12:26 left in the second quarter, all the way to 1 minute 11 left of the ball game.
Under pressure, throws, caught. Short of a first down. The catch made by Demetrius Dotson, the senior from Staten Island, New York, who had that big reception in the first half. He was one of those they lost last year due to injury in the 6th game of the knee, missed the rest of the regular season, came back for that bowl game disaster against Illinois.
George Welsh has that veteran quarterback in there. Dan Ellis doing his Brett Ingham impersonation, just moving around in the pocket as it collapsed. You don't have to set your hair on fire and go running willy-nilly all over the place. Just find the space and settle down.
3rd down and 2. Ellis, one of all the physical attributes you look for in a quarterback, that the coaches say generally makes great decisions. Looked like he was changing the play there, and it didn't pay off. Trying to throw a high pass out in the flat to Kevin Coffey, and Jared Lee was right there.
Well, it was funny. We kind of kidded about Coach Welsh when he went in at halftime, how he was kind of down in the mouth about being up 21-0. Well, I guess he knew more than we did, because all of a sudden his offense comes out, goes 3 and out after BYU put on a really nice drive to start the second half.
There's Mike Abrams to punt. Ryan Childress a walk-on snapper. Mike Rigel back for the punt. Well, it was a 21-0 lead last year for UVA out in Provo, and then they had to dodge some bullets in the final minute. How about this punt? They can't down it. Booming punt. Art Thomas tried desperately to down it inside the 5. It's a 70-yard punt for Abrams in his first season as their main punter. BYU will begin at the 20. Terrell Davis and the Denver Broncos take on Kurt Warner, the Super Bowl champion St. Louis Rams. Join Al Michaels, Dan Fouts, and Dennis Miller for the season premiere of Monday Night Football. That's Monday, Labor Day at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, right here on ABC Sports.
You know, Mike Abrams, he had never punted in a college game coming into today's for UVA, the punter. But he had played special teams. He was on the kickoff return team last year and actually returned 1 kick for 3 yards, but he still returned 1.
Momentum has shifted to the side of the Cougars, and it continues as Margin Hooks breaks several tackles. A late flag thrown as well, right where Hooks went down. He went down at the 39-yard line. You wonder if they tackled him illegally, and they'll tack more on to the end of the play.
But we saw missed tackles who hurt BYU in the first half. Illegal block in the back is the call against BYU. Unfortunate. Those are the things that hurt them in the last few ball games as they get the positive yardage. Last week you mentioned one time they got inside the red zone against Florida State, only to fumble the ball away.
Legal block in the back. Offense, 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. Repeat, first down.
Unfortunate because margin hooks. There is no question. You just have to be smarter than that. When you see the back of someone's jersey, you're not helping the play at all. The play's almost over anyway. You just can't make mistakes like that, not after a big play by margin hooks.
It's Toby Christensen with the illegal block. He may hear from his dad, Todd. Former great tight end.
I believe Todd would agree with me on that.
Yes. Todd was on ESPN today calling that Boston College West Virginia game. Engelman hit as he tried to dump it off incomplete. It was first down and 3. Angelo Crowell put the hit on coming on a linebacker blitz, and that's one of the things Rick Lance said about Crowell. His speed gives them the opportunity to bring more pressure from that position. You saw Aaron McCubbins limp off, the offensive tackle for BYU.
Sometimes as an offensive lineman, you've got your block, and then when the quarterback gets hit from behind, you've got that leg planted trying to stop the rush. And that's what happened to Mr. McCubbins. BYU played quite a few offensive linemen last week, so they have some depth at all their positions.
McCubbins plays both guard and tackle. Second down and 3. Play clock down to 1. Engelman just did get it off. Again, they bring pressure. He has his man. Doug Jolly, the tight end, with a first down. Out to the 47-yard line. Jerton Evans made the tackle. Gain of 20. Engelman, not all that experienced, but very cool under pressure.
You got pressure coming here, pressure coming here. It opens up the middle. Brenna Isabel, the middle linebacker, made the mistake of creeping up in towards the line of scrimmage, and Jolly sneaks right behind him. Engelman, nice heads up, reading what coverage you're given and know what you can get.
With Jolly and Opa Hengawi. Lance Reynolds says BYU has better tight ends. They're better at that position than they've been in several years. Numbers starting to add up now for Engelman. Goes to the quick pop to Rigel across midfield.
Number 13.
In the arms of Donnie Green at the 45 of UVA. A little bit short of a first down.
You know, Brett Engelman, you take away 2 throws in the first half, had a pretty good first half, but it's like the third quarter is where he likes to live. Against Florida State, he threw for 121 of his 138 yards. He comes out. They're on a second big drive for Lavelle Edwards. Lavelle might want to start doing a little sports psychology and just, it's not the first quarter, Brett. It's the third quarter.
Second down and 1. Crowd a little restless now as momentum is shifted toward BYU. McDonald with a first down, breaking tackles. Lost a shoe. And McDonald out of bounds at the 22-yard line. Chernard Newby chased him out. A little bit of everything on that run for McDonald, including the blown tire.
You know, I thought he actually fumbled. I saw something fly into the air. I thought, how can he fumble? Nobody hit him, but he's throwing so many moves. Again, Sataki, the fullback, doesn't get a great block, but the safety, Newby, just ran himself out of the play. And there comes the shoe. It was a shoestring attempted tackle that got the shoe loose, and unfortunately McDonald now has to come out of the game to get that back on because he's on a little bit of a roll.
Marcus Whalen in for him. Engelman has the Cougars on the move, trying to get within a touchdown with a long way to go. Not yet midway through the third quarter. 21-0 Virginia. The Cavaliers led 21-0 at the half. 21-7 now. Marcus Whalen took a lateral and brought it inside the 20 near the 18-yard line. It'll be second down from there.
We've already mentioned that Marcus Whalen only playing in his second game as a collegiate, a true freshman out of nearby Waldorf, Maryland. Engelman, before the snap, had to kind of point, hey, listen, you got the swing route here. That's the toughest part for these guys. You know, they've only been playing football at BYU. You get there in middle of August, and all of a sudden, last weekend in August, you're playing against Florida State. That's a big step up from Waldorf, Maryland high school football to big-time Division I.
Ahmad Hawkins, who you saw was injured on the play for the Virginia defense, came off the field. Rashad Roberson, number 2, has replaced him. Second down and 6. From the 18 of Virginia. On the delay there and hit in the backfield. Johnny Green made the tackle. There is a flag down to the line of scrimmage.
Prior to the snap, false start, offense.
Well, apparently they stopped the play, and no choice there for Virginia. They have to take the penalty, which moves the ball back to the 23. We're at Scott Stadium in Charlottesville, Virginia. Sean McDonough, Ed Cunningham, Leslie Goodell. Season opener for Virginia. Second game of the year for BYU at 0-1 after the loss last weekend in Jacksonville in the Pigskin Classic to Florida State. Now 2nd and 11. He was looking in the flat. Throws over the middle. Jonathan Pittman inside the 10. Out of bounds at the 1-yard line. He thought he scored. But the official on the far sideline.
Number 13, Brett Engelman.
At the 1.
And Tim Spruill is down on the 15-yard line for UVA, clutching his knee. Crossing route by BYU took a little time to develop. And Pittman, what was the word Lance Reynolds used?
Slippery.
It wasn't quite slippery enough down the sideline. It's going to take just a second to develop. 4 wide out. Engelman was looking for the screen, and Spruill right there just gets cut down on the crossing route. Did not see the receiver coming over. Good call by the official. Pittman's foot was out of bounds on about the 2-yard line.
And Ed, we talked early, one of the big question marks for Virginia, cornerback position. Spruill coming off the up and down year last year. Hawkins, a converted wide receiver, playing cornerback for the first time this year as a senior. They're both out of the game right now.
And now you'll start to see true freshmen have to come in. And Rashad Roberson, who came in before, kind of an unknown commodity, didn't play much last year, mostly special teams. So, like you mentioned, a struggle time for UVA trying to stop this BYU passing attack.
Cougars have already surpassed their entire yardage from the first half in less than a half of the third quarter. First and goal. McDonald to the goal line. Touchdown, BYU.
We have the BYU coaches box next to us, I believe, Sean.
They're a little fired up over there.
And they have reason to be. Luke Staley, who is truly one of the top backs in the West Coast for BYU, not with the team today. He has a concussion, and it looks like they found somebody that will be a very, very good backup. But it all starts at the fullback position. Kalani Sitake takes on the outside linebacker and the safety coming up to fill. Sitake with that mustache we'll talk about in a little bit.
Extra point up and good from Owen Pochman, the senior from Mercer Island, Washington. 2 touchdowns by McDonald. And boy, this game has changed in just a few minutes. 8 plays, 80 yards. Charlie Peterson, the backup quarterback, just a spectator today because Brett Engelman has been on target. Some good blocking done by Sitake, the fullback on that drive. And McDonald scored his 2nd touchdown, both here in the opening moments of the third quarter. What was a 21-0 Virginia lead at halftime has dwindled to 21-14.
Kalani Sitake, one of the leaders of this team, was looking at a photo of the 1984 national championship team in the team room, and he noticed all the guys had mustaches. So he talked about 30 of his teammates into growing mustaches, and they have an honor code. They can't have hair below the lip line, so they have to stick with just the stashes.
Pochman with another low bouncing kickoff up into the arms of Womack at the 5. And he's down at the 25. When you talk about the Mustache Club, Satema Nali Jr. and the brothers Sitake, Kalani and TJ treat us to a song they wrote.
What you talking about? You don't like my mustache. I said, oh, what you talking about? You said you don't like my mustache. You must be crazy.
Arlen Harris. I wonder if we can go back to that. Arlen Harris, the ball carrier. They have reason to be singing now on that sideline, and it was Satema Nali who just made the tackle with help from Jared Lee, who was also in there. Lee didn't want to sing. He's really not a part of that group, he said. Well, he is part of the Mustache Club, but not the singing group.
Yeah, he came in for our meeting, and he just did not look great. There, you can see the mustache right in there. A couple of the guys, Brett Ingeman, the quarterback, finally got into it. When he came in to meet with us, you said it looked like he had just had a
chocolate milk. Yeah, wasn't really working.
Wasn't quite coming in for him.
UVA trying to turn momentum back in its favor. Loss of 1 on the first down carry by Harris. And Ellis throws, caught by Kevin Coffey. And well short of a first down at the 28. Jared Lee again in on the tackle. And it'll be third down. They need to make the 35-yard line to move the chain.
But here is the big difference. And, you know, coaches, when they make adjustments at halftime, it's typically, hey, they're doing this, we need to do this. Schematics is what you talk about. I don't know what they're doing in the locker room, Lavelle Edwards and his staff, but they've gotten these guys in both games they played this year to come out and tackle better in the second half. I don't know if they're going out in the parking lot and having individual drills or what with a 20-minute halftime. You could do it in college football, but they're really doing a nice job wrapping up.
Out of the gun, 3 wide receivers. The pressure picked up. Ellis had time, throws, caught. Big first down, another mammoth catch by Demetrius Dotson. He beat Isaiah Joyner, a true freshman who had coverage.
Take a look at the outside receiver, one-on-one. Isaiah Joyner running the whole way. UVA flooded that side of the field, so the safety, Edwards, had to make a choice. Could not get over to help the true freshman out of Sealy, Texas. Just a really nice throw by Dan Ellis. Put it on the outside shoulder on that fly route. That ball's got to get to the outside.
Boy, did UVA need that to try to turn this momentum back in its favor. Harris gets very little, perhaps a yard on first down. Justin Enna took down Arlen Harris. Enna's a sophomore from Shelton, Washington. From a football family. His older brother Packy was honorable mention Pac-10 at Oregon State back in 1995. He has another younger brother who's playing at Washington State.
Had a great ball game against Florida State. Jeff Holtry, a starting outside linebacker, is only snapping for punts, so BYU a little binged up after Florida State.
2nd and 10. There's Isaac Kelly with the sack. The linebacker coming with the pressure, the junior from American Fork, Utah, who came to BYU as a quarterback and switched to linebacker in the spring of '98. A big sack.
Rob Morris was the guy who got all of the pub. This time Kelly comes from the outside. A really nice move on Arlen Harris. Everybody remembers Rob Morris, the All-American linebacker, now with the Bears. But this is a big, fast group of linebackers for BYU. Kelly, 6'4", 250. That time did not use his power, used his hands to get by Harris.
3rd down and 15. Here comes the pressure again. Ellis scrambles away and throws incomplete. At the feet of Billy McMullen. He was just happy to get rid of the ball with Ryan Denny and Justin Enna coming on the blitz. So momentum for just a moment for Virginia on the 35-yard pass play, but that's it.
And George Welsh, who sometimes you think he might get a little vanilla, but they've started to throw the ball. They had the long pass down the field. That time they throw it again, but BYU counters with some blitzes coming from their outside backers. And I can hear the defensive coordinators right now who don't like that new rule that the quarterback's able to throw the ball away.
Abrams trying to get a soft bounce, and he did. Ball hit around the 5 and stayed there. A 35-yard punt. Abrams has had a terrific day in his first game as the Virginia punter. BYU will start at the 6. But they'll be looking to drive for the tying score. 4:10 remaining in the 3rd quarter. BYU has scored twice here in the 3rd quarter. It's got a 21-0 deficit to 21-14. Ron Hawkins, the starting cornerback, back on the field for Virginia. Roberson playing the other corner for the moment for Tim Spruill. Ryan McDonald just trying to get some breathing room as BYU was starting from its own 6, and he did get them some room out to the 12.
Nice job up front by the big boys for BYU, because Virginia ran down into an 8-man front. Jerton Evans, the safety, came down from his safety spot to get an extra man in the box so that BYU wouldn't have enough blockers. And it's amazing what this 3rd quarter has done, not only statistically, but for everything. You kind of see a pep in the step for everybody in white.
Virginia had a 132-yard edge in total offense at the half. Now they're being outgained for the game. Nifty footwork by Kalani Sataki. The 25-year-old was born in Tonga. His first name means gift from heaven. And that was a heavenly run that yielded a first down for Sataki.
Well, the gift from heaven is the right guard, Val Gardson, and Sukanik, the center. They take Larry Simmons on a stroll in the park. That's called push in the middle, and Sataki will take that gift.
Good work up front by this veteran line. Sukanik and Val Gardson, junior and senior, respectively. Engelman with time again. Catch made. Short of a first down, out at the 30-yard line. Gabriel Reed touching the ball for the first time today. And for the first time this season.
Reed, kind of a utility guy, H-back / tight end, and BYU is having a lot of success with both Jolly, Afahangawe, and now they get Reed into the ball game. Why not?
He's a sophomore from American Samoa. Well, not long ago, Lavelle Edwards might have been thinking, why didn't I retire sooner? But things are looking better now for the veteran coach. Engelman forced to roll out and threw incomplete. It'll be third down. Upcoming. No more soccer excitement on ABC Sports. The rematch between USA and Guatemala. World Cup qualifying soccer action continues tomorrow, live at 2 Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. The last time they played that 1-1 draw in the stifling heat and humidity in Guatemala. This time the American team has Guatemala on its home turf.
Talk about the heat and humidity. Old Coach Edwards over there grabbing his knees. Rick Lance. That's the coaching position for stress.
Will Snowden in the backfield now alongside McDonald on third down and 3. Engelman throws too high and intercepted. Rashad Roberson picked it off. It went right through margin hooks. And into the hands of Roberson. What a quick reaction by Roberson for his first career interception.
You know, it's a shame that Engelman's going to have these interceptions. This ball obviously thrown just a little bit high, but when a receiver gets his hand on it, that ball's coming in a little hot. And Roberson just lucky to get that. But if you're a quarterback, you know that you better get your head on a swivel. 1, 2, 3 strikes, and Engelman goes for the haymaker on Stamenic. Gotta like the toughness, but listen, Brett, when you're a quarterback and you throw an interception, get ready for some headhunters to come looking you up.
3 interceptions now. And the handoff to Arlen Harris. Isaac Kelly made the tackle. That might have been the lift that this Virginia team seems to need.
Yeah, other than the one big play down the field by Dan Ellis, they really hadn't established much offensively. And now you get kind of what we saw in the first quarter by UVA. They're coming off the ball with a little more crispness. Arlen Harris running with his pads down.
3 turnovers by BYU, 2 of them interceptions. And they give it to Harris again. And second and very short, he has the first down to the 29-yard line. Tackled by Hans Olsen, the nephew of the Hall of Famer Merlin Olsen. Hans is from Idaho, grew up on a farm, said to relieve his boredom as a youngster. He used to practice balancing objects on his chin, and he's perfected that to an art form. He's balanced tables, chairs, railroad ties, bicycles, even small children in high chairs on his chin. That was featured in ESPN, the magazine.
He has to get a release from the parents to do the kids in the high chairs.
Here's Harris, wrapped up by Ryan Denny.
You know, Hans Olsen running off the field to get a little blow. Everyone always wants to talk about Merlin because obviously he's the big name, but he had a couple other uncles who weren't bad football players. Either Uncle Phil went to Utah State and played for the Rams, and Orrin was actually an all-WAC lineman for BYU back in the day.
He said it was Merlin who taught him the head slap. He told Brad Nessler and Bob Greasy that last week.
Yeah, Merlin was always a cheater.
Play action fake. Ellis wants a touchdown. Goes deep. Has the touchdown. Kevin Coffey.
seems like UVA stockpiles guys who are 6'4", 205 pounds. When Ellis throws this ball, I thought it was overthrown. Of course, he knows a guy 6'4" doesn't really even have to jump very high to catch a highly thrown ball. And Darius Wilson, a junior out of Forest Hill, Texas, only 5'9", allows Coffey to the inside, and that's a mistake against a big receiver.
Extra point good from David Green. 14th career touchdown reception for Kevin Coffey. That leads all active ACC players. And the lead goes back to 14 for the Wahoos. Charlottesville, the kickoff from David Green down to Paul Peterson. He'll try to run this one out from a couple of yards deep. Good decision. Full speed ahead for Peterson all the way out to the 36, and then a late flag thrown in where there was some jousting at the end of the run. Shenard Newby made the tackle. We talked about reinventing the corporation at Virginia, to use George Welsh's slogan. He said the key thing he wanted to do was improve the special teams. A lot more starters now playing special teams, and boy, is that a big penalty for BYU after the run back. They'll be assessed a 15-yard penalty. At the conclusion of the game, we'll select the Chevrolet player of the game from each team. Chevrolet will make a $1,000 contribution to each university's general scholarship fund.
And you can't have mistakes like that in the kicking game. You know, you're trying to get a little momentum back. BYU had kind of taken over the game for most of the third quarter, and then Kevin Coffey and company gets a score to go up another 14, and BYU just trying to do anything.
Personal foul on the return team. 15-yard penalty. First down.
And then you get a nice return to bring it out to the 40-yard line, and now you go back to where you would have been if you'd have taken a knee.
Right now, the Virginia defense only has 10 men on the field. They're playing with 10 men, and finally the sideline sees it, and they get a timeout called. Our spotter, Chris Helen, was the first to see it before any of the Cavaliers or their coaches did.
It was funny to watch the thought process that number 20, Shenard Newby, went through as he looked out to Margin Hooks, the best receiver for BYU. He kept looking over, hoping a cornerback was going to go get in his face, and when he saw nobody was going out there, he wisely called the timeout.
And Rick Lance getting a little bit of an earful, it seemed, from the head coach, George Welsh.
He looks out. That's Byron Thweet looking out. Hey, somebody, come on. We got a good receiver out here who is uncovered.
He and Newby both heard the sideline. They were nearest the sideline. Well, Rick Lance's defense much better today than it was at the end of last season. 10th year on the staff here. And you have to give George Welsh credit. A lot of head coaches make assistant coaches scapegoats when their team doesn't do very well in an area. He knows Rick Lance has been a terrific coach for a long time. And he said, Rick, you're still the man. We're going to make some changes within the staff, change responsibilities. But I admire George Welsh, very loyal to his assistants.
Not only did he not make him a scapegoat, he sat down with him and he said, what do you want to do to make things different? They had taken Rick Lance, his responsibility as linebackers coach for the last 3 years, and made him just the defensive coordinator. Coach Welsh and Coach Lance sat down, and Coach Lance said, George, I want to get my guys back. And these were all the changes that happened during the offseason. Art Marcos, who is now wide receiver special teams. He's the longest member of this staff. The biggest change, had never coached offense, but most of the other guys, Powell, Price, Smith, and Turner, shake some things up. And a lot of times the players get a little complacent with the guy that they're playing for. They don't know the new guy who comes in. So really, it's like hiring a new staff member.
Well, they win at least 7 games every year here. They've done that for the last 13, but no longer is that good enough. And George Welsh knows that. When he came here, this was one of the worst programs in the country. But he spoiled the folks around here. They want more than 7 wins, and George is constantly tinkering, trying to find the right combinations.
And Rick Lance spoiled everybody from 93 to 96. This was the only Division I program in the country that averaged more than 20 interceptions per year. So when you sat down with Coach Lance, he was like, hey, listen, I know last year was bad, but we've been pretty good for a long time. Let's not panic.
And George Welsh, one of the great coaches of his era, 128 wins here, 183 combined when you include his time at Navy, his alma mater, winning as coach at both schools. 3rd in the Heisman Trophy balloting back in 1955 when he led the nation in passing and total offense.
Military background. He did 2 tours of duty on destroyers for the U.S. Navy. You learn a lot about a man.
Been a lot of talk that he was heading toward retirement, but he's had 2 back surgeries, feels much better physically than he has in years, and he says he plans to coach at least 4 more years. He's now 67. Engelman with a man wide open. Pittman. 1 man to beat. And that 1 man saved the touchdown. Devon Simmons finally able to swing him down at the 8-yard line. Well, let's have some big plays all of a sudden in this one. A 71-yard game.
And it was confusion in the UVA defensive backfield. There was confusion into who was going to be in the game. Simmons got stuck with his feet right here. He was reading something in the middle. I don't know what he was looking at, but he moved up. Whenever a safety makes any move towards the line of scrimmage, your quarterback immediately looks for the deep post. Simmons saves himself from giving up the tackle by giving up the touchdown by coming back to make the tackle. But that was a good job by Engelman of reading that safety coming up to the line of scrimmage.
Ball slightly underthrown, or it might have been a touchdown. ABC Sports presentation of college football will return after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
I ever dreamed.
Let me down. You've turned my life around. The sweetest days I found with you. Through the years, I've never been afraid. I've loved the life we've made, and I'm so glad I stayed right here with you through the years.
2 halves here in Charlottesville. Virginia dominated the first half, led 21-0 at the break, had a 2-1 edge in yardage, but BYU came out sizzling, scored 14 unanswered points to begin the 3rd quarter. Interception led to a Virginia touchdown, but now it's BYU looking to come right back as we head to the 4th quarter. They're looking at 1st and goal from the Virginia 8.
And the key has been that man right there, Brett Engelman, 251 yards passing in the 3rd quarter. The 1 interception. The ball was a little high and hot coming into margin hooks, but still not that bad of a throw. And Lavelle has really been in this guy's corner. He says this is going to be a big-time quarterback at BYU.
And you can see evidence of that when you watch Engelman in these 2 games. McDonald trying to cut back. Down to about the 6 for pickup of 2 before he ran into Byron Thwaite, the senior from Chesterfield, Virginia, who's already graduated with his degree in history. He's now taking graduate classes in education. His 36th straight start. He's going to be the 5th linebacker in UVA history since freshman eligibility was restored in 1972 to be a 4-year starter.
And they were a little worried about him. You know, that shoulder injury last year was really limited him. He didn't have any contact during the spring. They were worried about him having contact in fall practice, and he was 100%.
Only 66 tackles for Thwaite last year to 99 2 years ago. They stay on the ground with McDonald down to the goal line. Did they give him a touchdown? Apparently not. Yes, they do. Finally, the signal for a touchdown. Jerton Evans tried valiantly to stop him short of the goal line. The officials looked at each other a while, and finally the official from the far side threw the arms in the air for McDonald's 3rd touchdown of this half.
Boy, I'm really impressed by Brian McDonald. Jerton Evans is a big-time hitting safety. This is swap and paint, helmet on helmet, spins out of the tackle, and I can see why the official was a little hesitant. I'm not sure that that ball got in before his knee went down, but what the heck, great effort. Give it to him.
Extra point sneaks through for Owen Potchman. And all of a sudden, the Cougars are back within a touchdown. 28-21 with 14 and change to go in Charlottesville. (28-21) Virginia. BYU refuses to go away. Trailed by 21-0. Closed within 7. That pushed back to 14 down, but McDonald's 3rd touchdown. All of them from relatively short range. Has made it a 1-touchdown game again with a long way to go, more than 14 minutes left.
We talked about how Virginia had the big back Thomas Jones to replace. Well, Brian McDonald is replacing a very good player in Luke Staley, and looks like BYU has found themselves a workhorse of a back. This guy's impressive.
Javon Mason will take the kickoff and down it. So Virginia will begin at the 20. College football on ABC Sports is brought to you by Chrysler, by Valvoline Max Life, the first motor oil formulated for higher mileage engines, by Original Coors. When you're an original, you do it your own way. Original Coors. And Burger King got the urge.
You kind of get the feeling that BYU has found some energy. They don't have a lot of depth up front in their front seven, so these guys, Olsen, Hoke, Satemanali, Denny, they all have to go the distance, but they've really been getting up the field recently.
And you wonder if that'll be a factor. We talked about the arduous travel for BYU, playing in the extreme heat 2 weeks in a row. Womack pulled down by Jared Lee. He looks fresh as a daisy. He's just happy to be out there. Jared Lee, when he was 14 years old, was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome. He told us it's a situation in which your immune system starts to attack your nerves, and all of a sudden you can't move. You're paralyzed. He was paralyzed for about a week. Had to have other people come over to scratch when he had an itch. His brother was in medical school, did a lot of reading about treatments, sent some faxes to his dad saying, why don't they try this? The doctors tried it, and a week later Jared was up and moving again. The doctors couldn't believe it. Usually it lasts as much as 6 months to a year. Tyree Foreman, the ball carrier. Chris Hoke made the tackle. Then it'll be 3rd down and a long 4 for Virginia. Jared Lee's been through a lot in his life, and he considers it a miracle just that he's playing football. When he was 12 years old, he was pushing the snowblower in the driveway in Idaho, got his bootlaces caught in the...
And he was a guy who didn't start until the 4th game of last season. Didn't really know out of Rick's College, a JC guy, and ended up leading the team in tackles and interceptions.
Ellis in a key 3rd down situation is going to run for it and has it. The dive for good measure, but he already had the yardage across the 30 before the dive. A gain of 7 out to the 33. And a big 1st down for UVA. If anything, just to kind of settle the situation down for them right now.
Boy, you got to like Dan Ellis. I mean, I wouldn't call him fleet of foot, but he does enough to get out there. And a tough guy, you know. You mentioned that he went to high school in Downington High School in Exton, Pennsylvania with Arlen Harris. And I know George Welsh likes guys who are tough. He started an outside linebacker in high school for 3 years and didn't start until his last 2 years as quarterback. So he's played a lot of football at other positions.
Nice cutback by Womack. Look out. 67 yards. The latest big play in a game that is suddenly filled with them.
The cutback, good blocking up front. Just a simple zone play. Fullback tries to get the cornerback, and all of the backside push. It's the backside of that offensive line, Evan Routson and Brad Barnes. When a cutback comes, it's up to the backside guard and tackle to get their job done. They washed all the BYU defenders in front of Womack, and Womack goes over 100 yards for the 4th time in his career.
First time in 2 years. He's sitting out all of last year due to the legal difficulties. 146 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns for Womack on just 12 carries. Green's extra point pushes the lead back to 14 for Virginia. Another big play. Antoine Womack, a 67-yard touchdown run. The lead restored back to 14 points for Virginia. Still a long way to go in this one. More than 12 minutes left. Green's kickoff down to Paul Peterson near the 5. Peterson again running hard, protecting the ball, and he's across the 30 to the 32-yard line.
When you have a back like Antoine Womack and you're going to get the cutback, it's all up to the backside. They're blocking one-on-one against Hans Olsen. Watch how they wash him down inside. You got Routes in the right guard and Brad Barnes, the senior right tackle, who was most improved last year for UVA. As they wash Olsen downside, both these guys get up the field, and there is your lane on the backside. Brad Barnes and Routes still getting up the field, and they also get on the backside linebacker. That's what opened it up for Womack.
BYU from its own 32 trying to set up a screen. Engelman finds Will Snowden. He finds running room and a 1st down out to the 43. Let's take another trip back to Times Square Stadium. Here's John.
Sean, it's time for the Burger King play of the day. A great game between Alabama and UCLA. Reggie Miles returned an interception 91 yards to give Bama the lead, but back come the Bruins. Ryan McCann, 46 yards to Freddie Mitchell. 28-24 right now. UCLA is sitting on the lead. That's your Burger King play of the day.
Pac-10 trying to make a little statement early.
They could use it after the rocky road they've had in recent years. Rigel eludes the tackle of Sproul and goes out of bounds at the 29-yard line of Virginia. Right back come the Cougars on a 29-yard pass play. Engelman to Mike Rigel, the junior from Tacoma, Washington.
Well, there's a lot of questions being answered today for BYU. Whether they win or not, they've got themselves a big-time quarterback, I think, a prospect in Brett Engelman. This is an out route, the toughest throw in football. From the middle of the field, a 15-yard out. That ball's got to get there in a hurry. And remember, Engelman is not healthy. That left leg, that plant leg, is not 100%. So he's just got to do this all on arm strength. That ball got there on a rope, Sean.
Indeed, it did. Engelman with the play clock running out. Throws close to another first down. Caught by Margin Hooks. He was wrapped up by Tim Sproul. They get inside the 20 to the 19. Might require a measurement. Nope, first down. Fifth catch of the ball game for Hooks.
And you start to see the development of Engelman. Second half is where he likes to play. He starts getting used to the flow of the game. And Lavelle Edwards, you know, a lot of people around BYU country have thought, you know, this Engelman, who knows what he's going to be able to do. He's the first return missionary to be the regular starter for BYU since 1988. Usually the quarterbacks don't go on an LDS mission.
He throws short. Looked like Rigel might have been struggling to gain control of that ball in his midsection, but he held on. Donnie Green took him down. Well, Engelman's used to the bright lights. His dad, for many years, the manager of Marie Osmond, Carl Engelman, and his brother-in-law is Larry King. Larry King, the talk show host, is married to Brett's sister.
Hello, Brett. Go ahead. Brett from Provo, you're on.
Engelman grew up in Provo, Utah, dreaming of being the BYU quarterback. He hands it off on second down and medium yardage. Donnie Green helping to drive back Brian McDonald. Little gain on the play. They're at the 13-yard line. They need to get just inside the 9 to give Coach Edwards another first down as we tick down to 10 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter.
Donnie Green, a guy who came back, sat out 99, fighting to get on the field. He's fighting with Crowell, making some big plays late in the ballgame.
Another huge third down and 5. Quick pass to Rigel, and he's close to the first down. Tackled by Rashad Roberson. The sophomore's made a couple of big plays. He had that interception here in the second half. And now that tackle that might be key if it held Rigel short of the first down. This is going to be very close. I won't even wager a guess at him. I'm a coward.
And I think they're going to be just a little bit short, but if I am Lavelle Edwards, no question, I go for it on fourth down. I think you're down 14, 9:34 to go. I think you have to get 7 on the board, not 3.
Well, already lots of speculation about Lavelle Edwards' successor. He told us on the night, one thing's for sure, will be a Mormon who will be made head coach, and that has increased the speculation about Gary Croton, who grew up 5 miles from BYU, was at the university, was not a part of the football program, but has had great success now in the NFL as the offensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears. They're just short, and they're going to go for it.
And you've got all the tight ends coming in for BYU. They're going to have their heavy set. I would not be surprised, Sean, if they give some kind of play fake and use one of these tight ends in the seam and try to get 7 instead of just the first down.
Obahengawi and Jolly, 2 tight ends. Sataki, the fullback, in front of McDonald, the tailback. Already 3 out of 5 this year on fourth down. 4th and 1 from the 9. could be the key play of the ball game. McDonald has the first down near the 6-yard line. They have to like their chances running behind Sataki. He has very much been impressive as a lead blocker from that fullback position.
And the whole key in any type of goal line situation, 4th and short, the defensive line is just really low to the line of scrimmage, the ground, and they're just going to try to make any kind of penetration to make the back make a cut. And that left side of the offensive line, Reichert and Whiting, these two big fellows right here, did a really nice job of stopping penetration and keeping their feet moving.
First and goal from the 6. They lean heavily on the run inside the 10. They fooled Virginia a couple of times with it, but not this time. McDonald upended by Shenard Newby, and it'll be 2nd and goal again from the 6.
And at some point, BYU needs to start being aware of the clock as it starts to widen out. I know there's 8:45 left, but you're down 14. You need to get a score, get UVA out there, and get a stop. If UVA comes out up 7 and gets any kind of sustained drive, it really puts your offense in a bad position.
Talking about the many similarities between these two programs, most notably winning consistently. Veteran head coaches. And this game looks a lot like the game they played last year in Provo when Virginia had a 21-0 lead and was hanging on for dear life at the end. Coach Edwards' team is throwing the ball into the end zone. They haven't been great getting up to the line of scrimmage in a timely manner, and the Cougars forced to burn another timeout, leaving them with 2. That could factor in later. 8:16 left here in Charlottesville. Tom McDonough, Ed Cunningham, Leslie Goodell back in Charlottesville, Virginia. 35-21. Virginia has the lead, but BYU is threatening again with 2nd and goal from the 6.
And Lavelle Edwards and his troops really did not need to use a timeout down 14 in the 4th quarter. You're going to need all of those timeouts, quite possibly for your last drive to tie or go ahead.
Ingham, the play action fake to McDonald, throws for a touchdown. Doug Jolly, the tight end.
And it's the aggressive play of the UVA linebackers that is costing them with those tight ends. That time, Donnie Green snuck up towards the line of scrimmage, and Jolly just went right by him, and Ingham fired it in there. Very simple play. Jolly right here. Linebacker Donnie Green's on the outside of your screen there. Just very quickly, a quick release. And Green just didn't come from his middle linebacker spot. Neither did the safety come from the outside.
First career touchdown pass for Brett Engelman, who's gone over 400 yards passing for the day now. 409 on 29 out of 37 passing. Potchman's extra point has made it a 7-point game again. And those are the kinds of numbers you expect from a BYU quarterback.
It just took a while to get it going. Jolly having himself a jolly good time today. But that's the respect that UVA has to have. Israel, the middle linebacker, has to come up because Brian McDonald has really run well, especially down around the goal line. So BYU sets up a nice play fake, and Jolly, who held his block for 1 second and then release, goes untouched. No one sees him creeping into the secondary into his route.
Doug Jolly's a junior from St. George, Utah. His dad, Gordon, played 7 years in the NFL with Detroit and Seattle. Here's a brother, Mike, who played 4 years in the St. Louis Cardinals organization. If time permits, stay tuned for the Thrifty Car Rental postgame report featuring scores and highlights from across the country with John Saunders and Terry Bowden from Times Square Stadium, if time permits.
You know, this is a time as a head coach, even though you're up, this is the toughest time, I think, in a ball game. When you say you're up 7, but with 8 minutes left, your offense is going on, and you've got to be talking to your offensive coordinator about the types of things you want run. You've got to protect the ball, but you can't close the playbook completely. You've got to pick up first down yardage.
Good kick by Potchman. Going into the wind. He had been squibbing the ball downfield, but with the wind at his back, he drives into the end zone. Latest BYU scoring drive, 69 yards in 9 plays. Engelman and Jolly for the score.
The BYU coaches talked about coming into this ball game, the things that they wanted to do. BYU's is what they've got painted. Lavelle Edwards, nonplussed by those fans behind him, but
not much gets to Lavelle.
No, it looks like that with Talk about winning the lottery. Probably looked like that if he won the lottery as well.
And Virginia, with its lead down to a single touchdown. Womack, that belted. Again, it's Jared Lee with help from Tyson Smith. Smith had him low, and then Lee came up high to deliver the pop after a gain of 5 by Womack.
Jared Lee, we already talked about how Justin Enna, the middle linebacker, gets taken out. A really nice block there by John Duckett. Duckett, another one of those guys who was not with the Cavaliers back in '99, was a linebacker his first 2 years, now playing fullback. Gets a nice cut block on Enna. But Jared Lee, always, strong safety, is always going to be up in the mix. The offense, Dan Ellis having himself a solid ball game. He's always efficient, but Womack has really been the story offensively for Virginia.
Quick toss by Ellis, incomplete. The big 3rd down and 5 was intended for Kevin Coffey. We talk about Jared Lee. Now he came back from Guillain-Barré syndrome when he was 14, was paralyzed for a while. He also has a nasty scar on the back of his legs. When we started to tell that story, he was
less than truthful.
Oh, look at that. Operating the snowblower when his bootlaces got caught on the snowblower and it chewed up his leg, and he has a scar that he's had since he was 12 years old. He also had surgery to have a BB taken out of a finger. A friend accidentally shot him with a BB gun when he was a kid.
He's got a much better story about his leg, though, that involves a shark attack.
Yeah, he says it was a shark attack, but we figured out that wasn't true after a while. Ellis throws, big first down. They convert the 3rd and 5. Out to the 40-yard line to Demetrius Dotson. 15-yard gain, and Dotson's been a big play receiver today. 3 catches for 84 yards.
And this Virginia offense just continues to chug along. We've seen BYU on offense explode here in the second half, but let's not forget the efficiency of this Virginia offense. Dan Ellis, great time in the pocket, steps up into the lane to find the wide open Dotson. A little bit behind him, but a completion nonetheless for the first down. Very efficient Cavaliers. We've been talking so much about BYU, we've almost forgotten.
Dotson with that 15-yard reception, now 4 catches for 99 yards. Ellis wisely running the play clock down near 0, under 7 minutes left in the 4th quarter. An elusive run by Womack. Finally was Jared Lee again who made the tackle.
Jared having himself a busy afternoon from that strong safety position. Whenever you have a big, strong offensive line like the University of Virginia, George Welsh has really put some big-time. Ray Roberts I played with for a while. He's now with the Detroit Lions, was a first-round draft pick. John St. Clair, center last year, All-American. Go back to Jim Dombrowski, who played a lot of years for the Saints, a first-round pick back in '86.
And they run the play clock down, give it to Womack on 2nd and about 3. He didn't quite get the first down. Needs to get to midfield. He came up at the 49-yard line, so they need 1 on 3rd down to move the chains. Isaac Kelly in on the stop.
You know, we met with Chris Hoke, the senior defensive tackle for BYU. And I watched that game last year where Thomas Jones ran for 210 yards against BYU. And quite frankly, hey, listen, Thomas Jones is a great back, but it all happened up front. A lot of the long runs by Jones, he ran right through huge holes. And Hoke said of all the teams we played last year, there was no question UVA had the best offensive line of all of them.
He thought they were the toughest up front as well. Here's the big 3rd and 1, and it'll depend on the marker. There's Lee again up from his safety spot. It looks like Harris is a yard short. They're going to spot him down to the 49. He is short, and George Welsh will likely have to punt. It'll be awfully risky to go for it at midfield, and he's conservative by nature. The crowd wants him to go for it.
Jared Lee came from that safety spot, and a really nice job of him. He is unblocked. When you get up 8, 9 guys around the line of scrimmage, there's just no way George Welsh's troops could get enough hats on those guys, and Jared Lee did a really nice job.
Well, he has the offense out there. Maybe they're going to go for it. Maybe they'll just try to draw him off with a veteran quarterback. They're going for it. And Harris didn't get it. Well, George Welsh, if folks in this part of the world have criticism of him, it's been that he's been conservative over the years. I guess they forgot about all the winning while they were criticizing him in that manner. That's very unlike him. With a touchdown lead, kick him down, make him go 80 or 90 yards. Instead, they give the ball to the Cougars. in UVA territory at the 49 after a huge stop.
And Justin Enna will not get credit for this tackle, but he should get credit for stopping. He's in that A-gap. He's going to fire and get into the legs of Harris. The fullback is Washington, but that's just good job by that middle linebacker getting in there and making Harris make a move before he got to the line of scrimmage. Enna does not get credit for the tackle, but a nice job by the senior linebacker plugging the hole.
Boy, I'm really surprised, Ed. I thought for certain they'd punt.
Well, he talked about changing around the organization, and maybe that's something he wanted to do, is go for a little more aggressive style.
Out throwing Engelman, staggering down for no gain, Soren Halliday. Let's check in at Times Square Stadium with John Saunders.
Well, Sean, you got a tight one. Also won at the Rose Bowl. UCLA, though, their offenses look good today. Deshaun Foster put on some extra weight, pumping iron in the offseason. You can see it as he takes it in 35-24. UCLA with the lead over Alabama.
And I was a little surprised for the high ranking for Alabama. Sean Alexander gone, Chris Samuels gone.
But the way they've been recruiting the last 3 years, Sean, they had guys to replace them. I'm really surprised how good UCLA looks, however.
After a disastrous season a year ago, margin hooks tackled around the ankles by Tim Spruill. Short of the first down, then down to the 43, but they'll need 4 to move the chains.
It's kind of interesting, the parallels between Virginia and UCLA. UCLA had a lot of guys hurt. They had the whole handicap parking scandal last year. 6 guys for UVA who had played in the past, not playing, back playing in '99 and making a difference.
Probably 4 down country here for BYU already in Virginia territory with 2 timeouts left. Approaching 3.5 minutes left. 3rd down and 4. McDonald appears to have the first down. And he does inside the 39-yard line. Another tough run by Brian McDonald. Tackled by Jaton Evans, Byron Thweet, Ubrenel Isabel.
Even though this is Brian McDonald's first year in the program, he's run the football a lot in junior college. He got a lot of touches. Had some injuries while he was at Cerritos Junior College, but has great patience. He waits for his blocks. Sometimes backs with a lot of ability, they want to get up into the line of scrimmage so fast. Michael Bennett at Wisconsin, one of the problems, a world-class sprinter, gets to the hole too fast. He does a really nice job of letting his blocks develop.
Cougars looking for the try and score. They have the screen set up against the pressure. McDonald, another first down inside the 20 and down at the 19-yard line. Great call with Virginia coming with pressure. Thweet was in the face of Engelman, and the screen worked to perfection. Spruill made the tackle and might have saved the touchdown. A 20-yard pickup for Robbie Bosco's offense.
UVA bringing pressure from their linebackers. Isabel's going to get up into the line of scrimmage, and a really nice job by the offensive line of BYU. As an offensive lineman, you have to read blitz on a screen right now, because if you don't get a hat on Isabel, that play is dead from the start. Heads up, good coaching by the BYU coaches to have them ready to pick that blitz up.
435 yards passing now for Engelman. Over the middle, caught by Pittman. They'll give him forward progress to the 12. About 3 yards short of the first down. Jaton Evans, another tackle.
You know, you kind of get the feeling that BYU has finally found some kind of rhythm offensively. I mean, great numbers being put up, but they're getting guys in and out. They're changing personnel, giving so many different looks to UVA, and UVA is really struggling just trying to figure out what personnel groupings Robbie Bosco and the offensive staff are putting in.
You also get the feeling they found their quarterback.
Yes, you do.
Engelman, 33 out of 41, 441 yards passing. McDonald gets the handoff, has a first down inside the 10, down to the 6. Well, maybe George Welsh knew something at halftime when he had the 21-0 lead, but was quite concerned as he spoke with Leslie Goodell, because this game is almost a carbon copy now of last year's when his team hung on to win 45-40 in Provo.
You know, you go back to the days at Navy for George Welsh. He is 3-0 all time against Lavelle Edwards. And Lavelle, when he came in the other night, one of the first things he said is, you know, it's my last year. I'd like to finally get a win against this guy.
There aren't many he's coached against that many times when Lavelle doesn't have at least one win. Marcus Whalen, the lone back. He takes the handoff. And the 2 freshmen stop for no gain. Down to a minute and a half and the clock running and 2 timeouts remaining. And really not a factor now. They're down there where either they're going to score and tie this thing or they're going to lose.
But here's where the 2 timeouts on the other side for UVA may become a factor. If you're George Welsh, you might start thinking about trying to save a little time for your offense. Assume the worst. BYU will score, go for the tie. Maybe on an away field, they'd go for the win with a 2-point conversion, but they may start thinking about burning timeouts to save some clock for their offense.
This has turned into a terrific game. Under a minute to go now. Cougars looking for the tying score. Engelman, end zone, touchdown! Margin hooks. Now the extra point to get them even for the first time since 11:08 remained in the first quarter when Virginia scored the first touchdown of the game.
And a blessing in disguise that they scored so quickly for UVA. Now they have 2 timeouts with 50 seconds left. If that drive would have taken any more time,
the extra point is good. Pochman has tied the game. Down by as much as 21. Coach Edwards and the Cougars now even.
Don't ever quit now. You can't win if you don't. Give it in. We got to win this damn game right here. We got to win this game. Everybody.
Roger French, long-time offensive assistant at BYU, coaching the line now. For a while, he was the offensive coordinator.
Chris Winkie ran in last week in the first quarter, ran into Lavelle Edwards, but the guy who took the brunt of the hit was Mr. French. As Lavelle went backwards, landed on his knee, and Coach French said, if I'd had anything left in that knee, I'd have needed surgery.
Brett Engelman with 447 yards passing now. Cool as can be in just his second collegiate start. And he said that mission really helps. When you spend 2 years on the tough city streets, you are more mature. You realize that football in the grand scheme of things isn't that important. Here's Womack. They could use a great run back. He has a lot of room now. Antoine Womack out to the 39, fumbled it out of bounds. Will they count the yardage on the fumble? Yes, apparently that was a fumble. The official's going to spot the ball at the 42 where it went out. Now they're going to put it back at the 39-yard line.
Can't lose contain. You've got to stay as deep as the ball. That's numbers Darius Wilson, who has contained, and also number 43, Michael Madsen. As they come over, I don't think they thought that Womack fumbled that away. The officials thought differently, however.
Well, they did move it back to the 39, so now a good field position. You'd expect Virginia to try to get into field goal range and win it. Reminiscent of their opener last year against North Carolina. Ellis throws to the sideline. Caught short of the first down. Caught by James Johnson. That gets them out to the 46-yard line, perhaps the 47. 37 seconds left and 2 timeouts left for the Hoops.
And here's where having a guy like Dan Ellis, a senior quarterback, running your 2-minute drill is really going to pay off for UVA. He will not make mistakes with the clock. He knows what he can get. If he's got to throw it to the middle of the field, make sure it's enough for a first down so the clock stops for the Chains.
Ellis in trouble, throws it over the head of Arlen Harris. Third down and short upcoming.
And UVA trying to get inside. I would assume they want to get inside their 30-yard line. But David Green, their kicker, although it's his first year starting, very strong leg. We've already seen him boom a bunch of kicks into the end zone. And last year, he got a taste of what it's like to be under pressure. He got the start against Maryland when Todd Braverman was injured. Went 2 for 2, both over 40 yards and field goals, and was 4 for 4 on his PATs.
Third down and 2. 30 seconds left. Ellis steps up, runs, first down. They'll stop the clock to move the chains, but then they'll get it going. So Virginia might want a timeout, or at least they want everybody on the line ready to go for a spike or a play.
And Ellis is waiting to hear from the sideline what to do. He's actually going to get a play off, Todd. They're not going to waste it down here by spiking the ball. Everybody knows when he holds up a finger what the play is from practice during fall camp.
And they will run a play out of the shotgun. in the field goal range now, down at the 31-yard line. It'll be about a 50-yarder into a bit of a breeze. Timeout, Virginia. 14 seconds left. An 18-yard gain on the little dump pass off to Arlen Harris. And the spotlight will shift to David Green, the junior from Hampton, Virginia. As Ed mentioned, he's been just the kickoff man the last couple of years. Has attempted only 2 field goals in his collegiate career, made both against Maryland. We talked about last year's opener, UVA against North Carolina, and it came down to the last second field goal, 32 seconds remaining.
Todd Braverman drives it through for the win. Sent North Carolina into a dismal tailspin as they had injuries rack that program.
And will history repeat itself? It's just about a 50-yard field goal that would be required of Green. 49 in all likelihood. The longest field goal he's made, 43 yards on a 2 of 2 last year.
And now UVA, with that timeout, can run the ball a couple of times, get it towards the middle of the field, maybe chip a few more yards off, call timeout so that it will be the last play of the game.
Well, they could only run it once if they were going to use the timeout. But they could get it right in the middle of the field. Some kickers prefer a certain hash mark. So young Mr. Green, you wanted to be a major college kicker. You have your chance in your very first game. It's going to come down to your leg in all likelihood to determine victory or overtime.
Yeah, at this point, you're trying not to think about anything but your form. Just get my plant foot down, move on the snap of the ball, and get it through. Don't start thinking about what's at stake, whether you make or miss this kick.
1 timeout left for Virginia. 14 seconds remaining. They don't want to lose yardage. And they stick with the conservative handoff to Arlen Harris. He didn't get anything. And they call the timeout very quickly. With 10 seconds left and no timeouts left, you have to kick the field goal now, don't you, Ed?
You can't risk not kicking the field goal. We already saw kind of out of character for Coach Welsh when he went for it on his own 49-yard line on that 4th down and did not make it.
That's the big decision of the game right now. Leading by a touchdown with just under 5 minutes left. 4th and 1 at his own 49. George Welsh, out of character, went for it and didn't get it, and that set up the tying score by BYU.
And Sean, another good story is Ryan Childress, the deep snapper, a walk-on redshirt freshman. His first year snapping, came into camp. They didn't even know his name, but he's been so calm under pressure that he won the job. Was a linebacker in high school, had 148 tackles as a senior, and that's why George Welsh likes him. A little undersized at 190 pounds. If I'm BYU, that's where I'm rushing Hans Olsen and all those big fellows right through him to try to get my hands up.
Pressure on everybody. The walk-on snapper Childress, the holder Greg Owens, and the kicker David Green.
And BYU with 2 timeouts. Lavelle Edwards maybe let UVA line up and then try to ice Mr. Green with one of his 2 remaining. Now, the way you want to set up this rush, and there goes BYU burning that timeout.
Well, why not call the timeout? You can't take it into retirement with you if you're Lavelle.
Or the locker room at the end of the game.
While we wait, we want to remind you of more great college football action next Saturday here on ABC. Some of you will see Santana Moss taking on Washington. It's Miami against Washington. Others will see Oregon at number 5, Wisconsin, or Missouri at number 18, Clemson. That's all next Saturday starting at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific, right here on ABC Sports.
You know, I saw a game one time, the Miami Dolphins, when Jimmy Johnson was coaching. They had 3 timeouts in this exact situation. Called the timeout, let everyone line up, called another, went through all 3 timeouts. It took about 5 minutes before they were able to kick it. And they lost.
Make the kick?
Yeah, they ended up losing the ball game to Chicago, I believe.
Well, all Engelman can do is watch and hope that he'll have a chance in overtime. Now, one thing that we should note, because they called the timeout quickly with 10 seconds, if he misses, BYU's going to get the ball with decent field position if they were tempted to heave one down the field.
Yeah, and it's not like Engelman's got a BB gun strapped to his arm. He's got a cannon. He could get some air under that and make it very interesting. And hats off to this guy. What a great third quarter and second half he put together.
It ain't easy being green right now. As they make him wait again with the last timeout.
That's their last timeout.
Poor David Green.
Yeah.
Well, he's probably had every kind of positive and negative thought you can have. By this time.
The best thing for him to be thinking about is where he's going to go to dinner with his family after the ball game. Don't think about what's on the line.
Well, he's trying to smile and make small talk.
That's nervous chatter.
Yeah, I don't think he's paying much attention to what that conversation's all about.
Started class this week at UVA. I doubt he's talking to his teammates about biology exam he has in 2 weeks. And Lavelle's team, you know, talk about the travel that they've had. Florida last week, they go all the way back to Provo. You'd think they would have just stayed on the East Coast. They also started class this week. Then they had to leave Thursday morning to come here to UVA. It's been a very taxing 2 weeks for this football team.
And they played in high heat and humidity in both games. But obviously their excellent conditioning was in evidence today because they played their best football in the second half.
As they did in Jacksonville against Florida State.
This will be a 48-yard field goal to give Virginia the lead with less than 10 seconds left, and in all likelihood to win the game. From the right hash mark into a very light breeze. That kick is hooked wide. Had the distance, but he missed it to the left. And as we noted, 5 seconds left if Coach Edwards wants to heave one.
5 seconds is right on the borderline whether you could run one play just to try to get to midfield. I don't think you want to risk it. Maybe try to heave one down the field, tip it around, and see if you can't sneak one down there.
Well, hope for a penalty. But he's very fortunate to get to overtime, trailing and fighting from behind all day. And Lavelle, boy, there's some reaction after the missed field goal. It's about as animated as he gets.
The hands tell the whole story. Don't ever look at that face because it'll never change.
Yeah, they're just going to take a knee, it appears, and that's probably the wise thing to do on their own 32. Well, last year they didn't quite get all the way back to even from 21-0 down against Virginia. This year they have. But will it be good enough for victory? We'll return with the overtime from Charlottesville, Virginia, right after this. Well, they like their expanded, renovated stadium so much, they're going to spend a little extra time in it here today. Virginia and BYU heading for overtime.
Very interesting that close to 61,000 fans came. Some of them left when it was getting a little out of hand, and BYU, as their captains go out to call the toss, the overtime rules, the winner gets to choose, and most likely when you win, you want to be on defense first to know what's going to happen with the other team's offense before you get the ball.
Because it is not sudden death in college football in overtime. Each team guaranteed at least one possession. They'll get an equal number of possessions. Let's listen in.
You will call the coin. You have your choice to go on offense, defense, or choose the side of the end of the field will go. You understand? Okay. What will you choose? Heads. You will call, you will call heads. Okay, heads. It is heads. You want to go on defense. Defense.
Now UVA gets to choose which end zone they will defend. I would defend the closed end, Sean, so you have more noise for BYU to deal with.
BYU won the toss. They elected to go defense. We will snap the ball, the 25 at that end of the field.
That's a benefit to BYU because of the open end of the end zone.
Well, I think George Welsh wanted the wind at his back. There's a little bit of a breeze in case they need to kick a field goal. Maybe it'll help the passing game. We'll be back for the overtime after this message from your ABC station. Begin, and it's George Welsh who has the sales job that he has to do to get his team back motivated After they squander the 21-point lead, they get the ball first in overtime. It's a running play with Arlen Harris and a gain of 3. As we mentioned, it's not sudden death. Each team guaranteed at least 1 possession. They'll get an equal number of possessions. The offense begins at the opponent's 25, and they play regular football, as you heard the referee say. If they don't do anything in 4 downs, the ball goes over. If they score, then the other team knows it must at least match what the other team has just put on the board to extend it to a second overtime.
And a good addendum to the rule is after the second possession from each team, they have to start going for 2.
Harris looked like a promising swing pass, but he bobbled the ball. He had a lead blocker in the fullback, Patrick Washington, out there. Justin Enna had coverage. 3rd down and 7 for Dan Ellis and this Virginia offense.
After the first year that the NCAA put in the rules for overtime, they made the adjustment that after both teams have had the ball for 2 possessions, then you have to start going for 2. It's really smart because some of those games were just going too long.
So 3rd down and 7. And the officials stopping the play. The linesman on the near side racing in. Not quite certain why. Apparently the ball was improperly marked. They're going to put it back closer to the 22 than the 23. Each team with 1 timeout. They need to reach the 15 for a first down. They bring some pressure. Goes the BYU defense. Flag down. Looked like a holding call. Ellis throws, and it is intercepted. Tyson Smith. So if it is a holding call against Virginia, and it certainly seemed to be, all BYU will have to do when it gets the ball right now is put any kind of score on the board, and the Cougars will win.
And it is going to be holding. The left tackle, Jermise Jones, got beat right from the snap.
Offense, penalties declined. BYU now goes on offense.
At the 25, theoretically, if you wanted to try to kick a field goal right now, you could and win the game. He is an excellent field goal kicker, but undoubtedly Lavelle will try to gain some yardage first. But all they need is a field goal, and it'll be an excruciating loss to open the season for George Welch.
And a game that we thought was well in hand at halftime, but George went in, and we kind of got a chuckle out of the fact that he said, you know, we've got to be careful in the second half. We saw this happen last year in Provo when they had to hold on to win 45-40. Game was not decided until an interception by one of his true freshmen, and he was right.
Well, I think he'll second guess himself about that 4th and a yard with 5 minutes to go when he went for it leading by a touchdown to midfield. But I think he sensed the game was going as it did last year, and that if he gave the ball back, even if he punted it down to BYU the way it was going, they might go down and score. And he probably figured if we can get a first down, maybe this is the play that'll win the game for us.
No question, BYU's offense in the second half has been superb.
Let's see how they play it. All they need is a field goal to win, so they keep it on the ground as you might expect. And McDonald is thrown for a 1-yard loss by Monsanto Pope. Potchman, an excellent field goal kicker, as Lavelle Edwards said, an NFL caliber field goal kicker. Second team all Mountain West last year. Lou Groza Award semifinalist as the best kicker in the nation. He's outstanding.
And last year he made a BYU record 15 straight field goals. He's BYU's all-time leading scorer. Runs in the family. Ethan, his brother, was a kicker back in '96 for BYU.
A toss to Marcus Whalen. Has a hole. Has a first down inside the 10. Now they're in chip shot field goal range. Lubomir Staminich prevented the touchdown, a gain of 17, and an injury on the play for BYU.
You know, Sean, I would not be surprised if Lavelle does not kick the field goal. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. A bad snap. Your snapper is hurt. Number 45 is Jeff Hultree. Has a bum leg. You've got to get the hold down. If it's blocked, you've got to start all over again. Not surprised if they don't try to stuff this one in on the ground.
We shall see. They were certainly discussing their options on the sideline. Still cannot identify the injured player. His number obscured from our view. It looks like Potchman's going to come on right now. It's a little bit of an angle to the left, his left. Ball near the right hash mark. But you'd expect to make this. You'd expect Potchman to make it. The vast majority of the time, you know, you'd have to say this is 95% plus for Potchman.
You know, a lot of times Division I programs don't give scholarships to kickers coming in, but you really cannot discount how important it is to have a good kicker in the ball game in a situation like this.
It's Sakanik, the center, Jason Sakanik, the junior from Vancouver, Washington. He had surgery to remove bone spurs from his foot back in the spring and missed spring practice.
We already saw Virginia with David Green, a basically first-year kicker, although he made one start last year. A little different situation, longer field goal. Probably felt the pressure a little more than Pochman will.
Pochman to win it, and a timeout called. And as Ed mentioned, Jeff Holtry, the snapper, with a bad knee, injured last week, a sprained knee, only snapped today. Ordinarily he's a starting linebacker. Aaron Edmonds, the punter, is the holder.
And Holtry, watching him during warm-ups, really couldn't even go through warm-ups. I mean, his knee was hurting him that bad that he was trying to go through and get loose, ended up just walking over and sitting on the bench. It's a very gutsy performance by him just to be here, much less be on the field for such an important play.
He's had no snapping problems today. He's made every extra point.
Rare to see a guy snap with just one hand. Usually it's that two-hand motion. I was a center, believe it or not, back in the day, and had to learn how to deep snap when I got to the NFL. It is not a fun job, especially on PATs. Everybody's pushing you back, and with that knee, he's going to have to do everything he can not to get knocked into the backfield.
George Welsh so anxious to get off to a good start this season, erase the memory of that bowl game disaster against Illinois. This would be a devastating loss to open the year. 26-yard field goal to win it for Owen Pochman. And it is just good. He just did sneak it inside the left upright, and BYU is a winner. Coming from 21 points down. Unlike last season against Virginia, this year the Cougars finished the job. Two great friends, two of the terrific coaches of their era. And Lavelle Edwards finally does have one retirement gift. His first ever win head-to-head with George Welsh. Chevrolet players of the game are Brett Engelman, the quarterback from BYU, threw for 447 yards, and Antoine Womack, who rushed for 160 for Virginia. In recognition of their efforts, Chevrolet will make a contribution to each university's general scholarship fund. Once again, the final score in overtime is BYU 38 and Virginia 35. Be sure to join us Monday night for the season premiere of ABC's Monday Night Football. The defending Super Bowl champion St. Louis Rams host the Denver Broncos. Join Al Michaels, Dennis Miller, and Dan Fouts for all the action. ABC Sports is online at bcsfootball.com. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports, continuing the tradition of excellence.
BYU's Lavelle Edwards mired in a 4-game losing streak, his longest in 20 years. Optimism remains. BYU's Lavelle Edwards mired in a 4-game losing streak, his longest in 20 years. Optimism remains despite the fact a 16th straight bowl visit